Scorched Earth, an ARK as hot as it is hostile. If the many inhabitants of this desert wasteland don't get you, the weather events most certainly will. And with that, it becomes the perfect environment to spend 100 days with the goal of defeating the Alpha Manticore. The catch? We are going to have to fight God. Once a benevolent force for good on the island, he's going to make sure that we suffer every step of the way. He's going to raid our bases, claim our territory, and do everything in his power to make our ascension as difficult as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're ready for a very special kind of tale, and with that, welcome to Scorched Earth. After successfully sending off the island, the gang and I began our adventure on this brand new ARK. Naturally, our first goal was to find each other, but before we could do that, we had to tend to matters of survival. Because even though I arrived here with a whopping 101 levels to my name, 50 fortitude was not enough to save me from the scorching heat. So we do what every survivor does, punch some trees, make some clothing, and try our best not to get eaten off rip. Obviously, food and water are vital to survival, but so is shelter. I figured that the housing buff might be able to keep me alive, but it didn't take me long to remember. Oh wait, that just makes it worse. As it turned out, I just wasted a bunch of resources creating a wooden oven because the only two building materials that can protect you from the heat on this map are thatch and adobe. The problem? I didn't have enough engram points to learn how to craft adobe, and thatch was not sturdy enough to withstand even a raptor attack. I honestly had better chances of finding building pieces and loot drops than surviving long enough to get to level 102 for some additional engram points, and as it turned out, I was not the only one who had that idea.
Oh, there's a Deodon on it, man. There's a Deodon on me.
Echo? Echo, is that you?
Oh, stop, man.
Hey, what's up? Come up here, it's safe. You know what? Maybe don't bring that to me.
I'm bringing it to you.
No. I'm running away.
I have some friends to show you, Cliff.
That is certainly not how I expected our reunion to go, but it definitely felt very in character for this map. Thankfully, the Deodon eventually got bored of chasing Echo, and the two of us managed to reunite properly. We opted for this little crevice area because it seemed relatively peaceful, and much to our delight, a white drop had just delivered most of the building pieces we needed to put down some shelter. Honestly, we were doing quite well for ourselves. Begging the question, you haven't seen Birdie and Brandon by chance, have you?
I don't know where they are.
I hope they're okay.
Oh, you died too?
Yeah.
Oh, what happened to Cliff and Echo?
That I don't know.
Yeah, so unbeknownst to us desert boys, the two of them were still stuck on the island because, well, they died in the boss fight. And without an ascension doing the work for them, they now had to figure out a way to get off the map. Not that this was of any concern to Echo and me, because we were absolutely thriving. Earlier, I had already tamed myself a little jerboa, because on this map, they are basically like your weather event alarm system. So fittingly, I decided to name mine Heather. But because they are also very useful as proxy backpacks, we knocked one out for Echo as well. What was even more game-changing, however, was getting our hands on our first combat mount. Okay, granted, raptors are not known for their resilience, but what they can do is allow us to gather a base amount of hide without needing hundreds of arrows. And while we were at it, we also decided to take down a Lymantria for its silk, because our cloth gear was not doing good enough of a job keeping us cool. On the way back, we found a 145 Parasaur, which fate decided was going to be my mount moving forward. We were advancing at an alarming pace, which honestly I guess kind of makes sense considering we have beaten this map in Survival Evolved on Gamma before, and the fact that we rocked up at an insanely high level thanks to our ascension. And those levels came in extremely clutch when Echo found something very important in a high level drop.
There's a toilet in here.
Wait, what?
Found a toilet from the purple drop.
And you're not freaking out about that? Okay, listen, if you've seen the Island series, you know that I like myself a good toilet drop. But the reason that was so impactful right now is because we could break it down for a ton of very valuable resources. People will refer to this moment in ARK history as the toilet skip because we just got ourselves 2 full sets of desert cloth and crossbows on the very first day on this map. Oh yeah, also, the Parasaur tamed up and I decided to call her Venna. Now granted, Venna did need a bit of assistance to get out of the crevice, but besides that, I was pretty happy with my first mount. With a kickstart like that, we were truly ready to conquer this ARK.
Are we not doing damage to it?
I don't think so.
How do we make it want to come out to die?
Maybe some of us do more conquering than others. Anyway, since we had our equipment and mount situation sorted out, Echo and I decided to split up to look for the rest of our tribe. I did hope that a flare gun I found in a drop would help alert them to our presence, but expecting them to be that attentive was a bit of a stretch. I really had to put myself in the mind of an ARK beginner. Where would I want to be if I had never played this map? Obviously by the water. And with Venna's ability to ping hostile creatures, finding them ended up being a piece of cake. Though little did I know that the two of them were not as happy to see me as I had expected.
Now hold on. You left us.
I didn't leave you. What?
Yes,
you
you
just
did.
died in the boss fight.
It's not my fault that I ate a fireball for you.
It's not my fault I got yeeted onto this map. Wait, how did you guys get here?
the train.
Needless to say that the two of them did not get anywhere near as much done as Echo and me. Our first prime directive was getting our hands on some hide, because on this map, hide equals bola and bola equals life. We did also try to knock out a Dodicarus to help us farm resources for a house made of adobe, but that did not end up going according to plan. What did go according to plan was trapping a Morellatops, because not only do they make for great mounts, they also function as mobile water containers. I told Birdie and Brandon to gather some resources for a makeshift base, whilst I went out on Venna to gather more drops in hopes of repeating the toilet skip, and it was a success. Well, it was for me. Birdie did not end up having as good of a time. You'd really think that he would have learned his lesson from that, but unfortunately...
Oh, why is it so dark in the water?
It's muddy water.
Uh-oh. Ah!
Never change, Birdie. Whilst I provided a bunch of useful materials, Brandon took it upon himself to create our first base. Sadly, we did not have the means of creating an adobe structure in any reasonable amount of time, so instead he opted to create a wooden house with a thatch attachment. It sounds stupid, but actually worked surprisingly well against the heat, as did our Wi-Fi water. With nighttime being a lot cooler than daytime, the gang and I decided to make use of that to gather some essential materials, to varying levels of success. Oh, another Capro! Besides Birdie not being able to go 20 minutes without getting abducted, we were making great progress, but some key items were still missing. We had to get our hands on some crystal, and I mean, I knew where to find it, just that getting there without a flyer would be rather difficult. Now, some of you might say that the solution to our problem is taming a flyer, but I disagree. In the vein of you gotta spend money to make money, I decided to grapple my way on top of this mountain in search of crystal. Much to Brandon's delight and amazement, because we only had a limited amount of grappling hooks available, I wanted to make sure I brought as much crystal back as possible, so I decided to toss what I harvested down to Brandon before hitting up some more nodes. And before long, I had harvested every single node I could get my hands on. The morning of day 3 was rather stressful because we had to defend our camp from a small army of raptors. Brandon was doing a surprisingly good job culling the attackers together with me, and I'm gonna be real, you guys, without his help, Venna would have probably died. And our performance was rewarded because right next to our base we found the highest rarity beacon the game has to offer. Brandon!
What?
Brandon!
What?
Brandon, there's a red drop with a ring right next to us. Ooh. We have to go there. Give us something we can break down for a lot of metal. Here we go.
What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it?
What is this?
What is it?
What is this loot drop? Okay, it's no structures, but it's several ascended saddles.
Ooh.
Some for creatures that aren't even on the map, bro. Not exactly what we needed now, but certainly not a bad drop by any means. Ascendant saddles like these would make for an absolute gold mine once we had an industrial grinder, and at the rate that we are progressing, that might be sooner rather than later. Though let's not forget that this is still the early days. We don't even have some of the most basic creatures in our possession, so to get the ball rolling, Brandon and I decided to tame a level 75 Anki that just so happened to pop up on our way back home. Well, really, it was mostly Brandon's doing, because another thing that was in the red drop was a mind wipe potion, which I could use to reset my stats and get my engram points back to learn how to craft some Scorched Earth specific items. But only because I had the knowledge doesn't mean I had the means. Venna and I ventured halfway across the desert to another mountain so we could harvest some metal. Turns out the local Argentavis population had claimed that mountain for themselves, meaning before harvesting of any kind could take place, we needed to evict its residents. Honestly, I was not enjoying hitting metal nodes for poverty amounts of ores by hand was being like level 100. But right now, I didn't have much of a choice. I was still hoping for that jackpot supply drop that would give me something I could break down for loads of metal, but so far, no dice. Additionally, the crew had some amount of trouble keeping themselves and their tames alive. I have no idea where Echo was at this point, but the rest of them...
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god!
You are such a handful. Yeah, as much as we tried taming some creatures, Birdie and Brandon had a really hard time keeping them around. Me personally, I was still looking for a male parasaur to give Venna a partner, but it became apparent that my tribe needed some help. So I grabbed what little resources we had gathered from supply drops, took the two of them to the green obelisk, and just barely managed to craft one cryopod for each of us. I cannot understate how much of a game changer it is to have these things by day 3, even if it's just one per person, so hopefully whatever we tamed up next could survive more than an hour. Speaking of surviving, Echo found the rest of us in the early hours of day 4, having scouted a significant portion of the map on the back of his raptor Hungy. But almost as soon as he arrived, something strange happened. What's up with all these bugs, bro? What?
Yeah, Henry's getting destroyed by some bugs.
Why are the bugs running away now? Excuse me?
The bugs are serving one unified purpose right now, and that's to be as annoying as possible.
I can't say I have ever seen them do something like this, but anyway, we had more important matters to tend to. Now that the tribe was complete, we had to find out where we wanted to build build our base, an effort that would require everyone to pull their weight. So we began debating where one such suitable location would be. And it's not too far away from Red Op, so we could go there for silica pearls.
Water, mountain, red ob, silica pearls. What could go wrong?
Probably metal up there too.
Yeah, there's metal all over the mountain.
All right, let's go.
Alright.
I know Birdie's vote.
Let's get crack-a-lackin' then. We were in for a massive surprise. Anyway, we had a lot of work to do, so we spent the day taming more gathering creatures, gathering supplies, and supplying up ourselves. We were finally in a position where we could create adobe structures, and I wanted to make sure that once we have arrived at our new home, we could simply plop down our buildings and instantly have shelter, meaning there was a lot of grinding to do. Grinding, which would be worth it, because once we found our new home, our houses were down in absolute record time, and the best part, we were within walking distance of several high-rarity supply drop locations. By the time morning arrived, our little town was fully operational and we were ready to tackle this map. What we didn't expect was somebody arriving with a housewarming present.
Whoa, what is? Shoot-ons!
Do I even want to be part of this? What the hell?
Oh, these are Archaeoraptors. Oh, hell no. I'm not going back in my house.
On.
I'm going back in my house. Y'all have fun with this one.
Oh no, dude, what is happening? To make matters worse, Brandon had just decided to go AFK, meaning the three of us had to somehow handle this random assault in the form of an army of Archaeoraptors. And yes, this was every bit as messy as you would imagine it to be. Yeah, these 100 days were bound to be challenging. If we'll constantly get harassed like this, then we need to put some serious effort into some defenses. I mean, heck, besides Echo's Raptor and Brandon's Direwolf, we really didn't have much to defend ourselves with in the first place. So the gang decided to split our efforts. I would go out and gather important resources for material defenses, and the three of them would try and find creatures we could use to fight back. At that stage, we had absolutely no idea if there was any rhyme or reason behind the attacks or what we did to piss God off in the first place. All we knew was that this series was not going to be the chill beach episode that we had hoped it would be, and instead, we would have to be ready at all times.
Guys, help me.
Wait, where are you, Echo?
I'm at the toads.
Oh, what the hell? Oh no, dude! Boys, we got an infestation!
Oh no.
Not the frogs, bro! Lord knows things are only gonna get worse from here, but the true extent of God's wrath was not going to become apparent. Until next time. Imagine you are just minding your own business, farming resources, building your base, when suddenly you get raided. To many ARK players, that is pretty much the worst case scenario, and I'm gonna be honest guys, even after over 1000 hours in Survival Evolved, I've never actually played PvP, so this was a bit of an experience for me. Usually, beating Scorched Earth on 100 days is an absolute cakewalk. There's only 3 caves, 1 boss, and the days last absolute ages for some reason. But things get a bit more complicated when you have to fight the admin of the server, aka God, while attempting that. On the last episode, he had spawned a bunch of creatures to mess with our tribe, but none of us were prepared for the kind of onslaught he had planned for today. I really wish that the days we spent before the raid were the proverbial calm before the storm, but unfortunately for us, the weather disagreed. Oh my
Lord.
god, dude!
Go inside.
What the
Look, yeah,
hell?
I'm going inside.
Yeah, it's time to go inside, gamers.
Is having windows a problem?
I hope not.
Not if you're coming from Linux.
Oh my god, Brandon, not the time! Yeah, the weather events on this map are brutal. We had pretty much no choice but to sit it out in our houses unless we had an urge to meet our maker sooner rather than later. But after just a few minutes, we could finally get our day started. And that was just as well, because we had a lot planned for the session. We had creatures to tame, drops to farm, and a base to build. All of us went out individually because we all wanted to tame different dinos. Me personally, I was looking for a Procoptodon to replace my Parasaur, whilst Brandon was trying to tame an Argentavis. In hindsight, I should have definitely followed his lead, because traversing this map on foot is all sorts of annoying. Some of the most obnoxious creatures ever created by Wildcard roam this land, and they were making sure I don't forget they exist. Though it wasn't one of them that got me in trouble, more than getting stuck on a rock. My god, let me go! Stop! Oh my god. I hate this game. Welp, no time as the present to tame the thing that killed my mount, and even though Brandon had taken to the sky, let's just say that his luxury did not last very long either. Thankfully, Echo just so happened to be in the area, so when he spotted the pop-up that Venna had died, he decided to drop by to make sure I'm okay, even giving me a lift back to base. We were not off to a great start, but that only meant that we were long overdue for some luck. Whoa, there's level 120 Doedicurus in our base? How'd that happen? When did that happen? You know what? I'm not even gonna question it. I'm just gonna knock this thing out. Not gonna look a gifted Dodec in the mouth. Even though I was not super keen on immediately getting a flyer for myself, I do have to admit that Echo already having an Argentavis ended up being extremely useful. I can understand why Brandon wanted one so badly.
Can I borrow your flyer just so I can go whistle my flyer back?
Bro, he's gonna get killed. Don't give it to him.
That's a no. Like, you're already taking our freaking land teams and getting him killed, bro.
If I could fly, it'd be easier.
You like, why can't you just freaking whistle your flyer to follow you when you get close?
Because I can't get close.
You can really tell that Brandon is still new to this game. I mean, to be fair, I'm quite certain that Birdie would be just as talented at getting our tames killed if he was awake. For the time being, Echo did agree to fly Brandon to wherever it was that he lost his own bird, whilst I decided to go around looking for other dinos to add to our ranks. Honestly, he was definitely our most valuable player at present, because whenever I found something I wanted to have tamed, he would just pick it up with his RG and bring it back to base, completely avoiding all the earthly annoyances that I had to combat. But hey, at least this red drop with a ring I found gave me an absolutely ludicrous amount of loot, though as it turned out, I was not the only one hunting for drops.
Echo, why don't you step into my armory? Step into my armory, Sir Echo. I have a delivery for you. There was a fresh crate of things dropped off. It's not many, but you know, in this barren wasteland, it's something. By the way, I have an Ascendant Sabertooth saddle in here.
Can I have that?
Yes.
200 armor and you've just been sitting on that?
I forgot. I haven't looked in this chest in a while.
Jeez. Yo, thanks, bud. A brand new saddle for my brand new Sabertooth Tina. Granted, his generosity did come at a price. He wanted me and Echo to help him get his hands on a few guns. Because Brandon didn't survive the Overseer battle on the island, his level was not high enough to open all the drops on the map. So the two of us decided to take him around the desert in search of that fat loot. And I mean, while in Rome, we might as well harvest some mantis for that sweet, sweet polymer. After all, if we find a gun blueprint, we're going to need that polymer to craft it. And after a little while of searching, we did come across a desert drop housing a shotgun blueprint. This in itself was a massive find, but little did we know that there was more to this drop than meets the eyes. Did the thing just respawn again?
Yes.
It just no way. What's in it? What's in it?
A pistol and a bow. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is intended, but future me can confirm that walking away from this desert drop makes a second one appear almost immediately. Please let me know in the comments if this is normal or if there's something wrong with my server, because as it stands, I feel kind of bad making use of it. Either way, we got what we came here for and even grabbed some metal on our way home. Now, if you thought that Brandon getting what he wanted would stop him from turbo-inting, you'd be wrong. He figured that in order to satisfy his gun addiction, he would need to find a way to mass-produce bullets. But to make bullets, you need gunpowder, and to make gunpowder, you need spark powder, for which you require stone and flint. Basically, if you control the flint farm, you control the ammo production. Now, an Anki would be just fine in achieving to do that, but there is one creature that is far more effective at farming that resource specifically, and that is the Phaseolsuchus. Naturally, Brandon had absolutely no idea how to tame it, so he asked me for help. The only problem? All of my Phaseolsuchus knowledge is entirely academic. I do know in theory how to tame it, but I have never actually done it. So the two of us idiots went back out into the desert to slaughter low-level specimens until we found one worth taming. As for the actual taming process, you're gonna want to sneak up on it while it is buried in the ground. Without getting caught, place an explosive and detonate it on top of it, giving you a brief window in which you can mount it. With that said, all of this theory is most certainly easier said than done. What level are you? 140!
Oh, it's the one. It's the one. All right, kill the others.
Mods!
It didn't work.
It did!
Oh, it worked.
No, it's not dazed anymore.
No.
Run away! That does not...
No.
The king under pressure, he was not, but that doesn't mean that he gave up. After building him a bed for him to respawn on, he put on his ghillie to go and try again, slowly learning how close he can get before the Phaselo notices him. And magically, with his last grenade in hand, we made progress.
I'm on it.
You got it! Nice!
Now what?
Run it into rocks. Run it into anything that's destructible. Rocks, soul, come over to me. Try to steer it over here.
I'm coming.
Oh my god, you're fast as hell, bro. What the? Now, if you thought that just getting the tame started was tedious, just you wait, because finding enough nodes to run this thing into for it to knock out was a whole can of worms. Every stone only added a couple of % to its torpor, and that's while it was fighting for control. Apparently, hitting metal nodes would have the greatest effect, but we didn't know where we could find any of those anywhere around us. I was trying to scout the area for salt, having read that this would be more effective than rocks, but there were only so many nodes we could find. At the end, Brandon got knocked off when he ran into a water hole, and without another explosive to try again, we were beaten. Bruised and broken, but not defeated.
A little defeated.
Not defeated, Brandon. Not gonna lie, this creature might rank in the top 5 for most annoying taming methods. Alas, equipped with a new batch of explosives and fire in our hearts, we came back the next day to go again. And at this stage, Brandon had gotten pretty good at anticipating the distance at which he can remain unseen, though he did choose a bit of a sketchy area to run it into, causing him to get dismounted at about 30% into the tame, and to make matters worse, a sandstorm appeared. The annoying thing about this was that while we had to wait out the weather event, all the taming progress he made would go to waste. The Fasolo had buried itself not too far away from our tent, so as soon as the storm was gone, he beelined it towards the creature to save as much taming progress as possible.
No more torpidity.
0?
0.
Oh my.
Is this the same? This is the right one, right?
I did not check the level.
I can't. I don't know if I can check it while it's on. While I'm on it.
It's a level 10, that's not the same one.
Mother. Oh, I see it over here.
Oh my lord.
You don't happen to have any more explosives, do you?
And I did. If at this stage I didn't expect something to go wrong with the tame, I would have been an awful tribe leader. So Brandon got back on the Fasolo to end our suffering once and for all. We've literally spent days trying to get this creature, but we're determined to not give up until it was ours, no matter the cost. You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
How far is it tamed?
Like 60%?
60? Bro, you've been at this for like half an hour.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Turns out that our 1.5x taming rates were not as generous as I initially anticipated. Though just to prove a point, and because I had nothing better to do while Brandon was playing cowboy, I captured this random level 150 Sabertooth that I stumbled upon. 10 points to Gryffindor if you assumed that this creature would be done taming before the Fasolo. Finding a partner for Tina aside, Brandon did eventually manage to knock out the creature, so all we had to do was put some prime meat into its inventory and wait for it to become our friend. After the ordeal that this was, I started to doubt that he would find it worth the effort, but much to my surprise...
Space.
Oh!
There we are.
How does it feel finally controlling her?
Right? I can run into rock and just... Oh, look at all this flint, dude!
He was absolutely in love. Roxy and Brandon would be an inseparable duo from here on out, because now there was nothing standing between him and the mass production of as much ammunition as his heart desired. The rest of our tribe, meanwhile, had gathered all the resources we needed for a brand new chem bench, meaning everyone else was just as excited about that prospect as Brandon himself. Though let's not forget, offense is fun, but defense is necessary. I got absolutely sick and tired of random dinos running into our little town, so while Brandon was working on ammo, I decided to farm a bunch of stone to begin creating a wall. Obviously, this was not as fun of a project as making the stuff to shoot dinos in the face, so our flying gamers went out to get some metal instead of helping me. But since all of us were keeping so busy, none of us noticed something very obvious. I saw some red damage numbers just outside our gate indicating PvP damage. When we went to investigate, we found a ghostly wolf next to a metal sign, and it read, "This new world that you roam, I won't allow to call it home. Prepare yourselves, because hereby I grant your tribe 10 days to die."
10 days?
Not 7?
There's a wolf here.
It's day 9.
Is this 10 days from like now, or is it 10 days like from like when the sign was put up?
10 days? Yeah, 10 days from when he put up the sign 9 days ago.
And nobody noticed. This was most definitely a bit of a surprise. We only had one more day to prepare ourselves for an attack, meaning it was time to scramble. Though one thing was for certain, whatever doom this prophecy announced, none of us were really taking it seriously. Guys, I built an air conditioner.
Oh, where?
At my place. Everybody come in,
yeah.
come in, come in.
House.
Alright, guys.
Alright, boys, hug the air conditioner.
Ah.
Oh, it feels fun. I don't poop next to the air conditioner. It's gonna
Dude, no
smell.
pooping next to the air conditioner.
Did I poop?
I'm gonna establish some house rules
You
here.
have no toilet, bro.
I have a poop bug. We continued living in blissful ignorance. Honestly, some of you might feel like between the chem bench and the air conditioner that we were making pretty fast progress for only being 9 days into our 100-day challenge. But seriously, for some reason days on this map just last an absolute eternity, and also something tells me that we're not gonna be allowed to do that much longer. Obviously, our #1 priority was finishing up the wall to hold back whatever it is that God decided to throw at us on day 10, but we also needed some creatures to help defend us. During a rainstorm, I stumbled upon a level 130 Megatherium whilst looking out for new tames, so obviously I trapped it to add it to our ever-growing collection. But as soon as I was done, I was abducted to help the boys with their tame. Turns out Birdie really wanted to have a Parasaur Ethereum, because with the right saddle, you can build structures on the back of it. I wasn't one to argue with that, so obviously I did what I could to help my tribe achieve that goal. Okay, no, stop. Okay, what are you guys doing?
I'm not doing anything.
Who's just putting random berries in this thing?
Does it not eat berries?
You're supposed to give it the good berries.
Well, what's a good berry?
The mayho berry. You've played this game before, Birdie. Never underestimate Birdie's ability to use his brain as a sieve. You can be dang sure I sent the boy to grab some mayho berries, and eventually it was tamed. Now here's the thing. We knew that we should expect some kind of raid on day 10. However, we had no idea when on the 10th day said raid would arrive. I tried to help Birdie put a bunch of stuff on his parasaur, which he named protein powder for some reason, while Brandon was taking a bathroom break, when unexpectedly... Guys, there's damage behind us.
Whoa.
They're on base already.
The what?
Something's attacking the back of our base.
All right, I'm on it.
Something big. Something really big.
Oh, no.
It's a rock golem!
A rock golem? Oh god. Okay, Birdie, we need to get going.
Yeah, I know.
Coming from all over the place.
The gate is about to break. We need to get out of here.
There's 2 Uteranus's.
And Brandon is not here.
Oh, go, Cliff.
That's 2 rock golems. Let's see. Shoot. Does that not deal... It does not deal any damage!
There's 3.
Oh, my lord.
Oh my god, I don't do any damage to this thing.
There's
a flying gun!
Wait, what the...
What is that?
Shoot it!
What is that?
What the... Okay, Uteranus, run away, quick! Oh, this is really bad. Oh god, what is happening?
I think I'm getting on the Megatherium.
As a tribe that has never played PvP in ARK before, the scope of this attack has definitely caught us off guard. While we were leisurely trucking along on our PvE progression, God had prepared a massive assault on our base. UTs were running rampant, Arthurs were destroying our buildings, and rock golems were tearing everything apart while a giant bug continued dropping more creatures into our compound. At that stage, we had to use whatever we got. I tore down my fence to release all of our farming dinos because realistically, they're gonna die anyway if I keep them caged. But none of that felt like it made an appreciable difference.
Guns work on these things?
I don't know!
No, it doesn't!
I take negative damage!
Protein powder's dying!
Erica's dead.
Eric, no.
Dude, I did 37 damage! No.
Oh god, stupid Rhino!
Okay, guys, let's get out of the base, maybe.
Run? This was a tough decision, but our entire compound was absolutely swarming with God's minions, basically leaving us absolutely no choice. All we could do now was watch as they were tearing everything we had built apart. On this day, in this moment, we were utterly defeated. If you ever had the misfortune to get your base raided, then you probably also know how good it feels to get back at the one who did said raiding. We got absolutely annihilated on the last episode, our defenses destroyed, our base overrun, and our tames lost in battle. But that doesn't mean that we're going to give up, because there were a few things we could save, things we could use to get our base back. This, my friends, is the great rebuilding, because we are going to farm, tame, and fight whatever it takes in order to get our revenge. Though before we even got started on that, we found out that we hadn't lost as much as we initially thought. Oh my god!
Whoa.
Wait, who are you? Sandrea survived?
Yes, Andrea survived.
Wait, what? Dude, she's been following me this entire time! Honestly, this was one of the better outcomes considering our circumstances. Echo got Martin out in one piece when I simply ran for my life after whistling our remaining tames to follow me. The fact that even just one of them survived is, as far as I'm concerned, an outright miracle. For now, our first course of action was going back to our first house, which we abandoned mere days ago. Now, not many things in life are free, but when a Procoptodon gets stuck on your Megatherium, you certainly don't question the circumstances under which you just acquired a new mount. Not that any of our next tames were free. We had to get out there and retame a lot of the creatures lost in the attack, whilst also getting our hands on as many resources as possible. Obviously, land beacons would also make for a great way of injecting some fighting power into our tribe, but when I found some prime fish in a drop, I remembered a couple of days before the attack, I had just tamed a level 150 Sabertooth to keep Tina company, and the 2 of them had a baby which I pocketed because it wanted prime fish meat. Meaning, while my previous Sabertooth may have perished, her will can continue to live on within her offspring. Baby dinos really were the name of the game because while going out to the Red Ob in order to farm some silica pearls, I stumbled upon an Ovis. Obviously, I didn't have any sweet veggie cake to tame it, but after eating it, I could claim its baby as my own. It might not be a great combat tame, but I'm sure having on-demand mutton is going to be useful at some point. As for its parent, yeah, I fed that to a 145 Megatherium, whom I have bred with Martin, and would you believe it, their first baby was mutated. The mutation was not on any good stat, but it did make him look pretty unique, so I decided to call him Snout. And while all of this was going on, Birdie was taming his first Argentavis, who also would benefit from my new side gig as Uber rider. Now here's the thing, rebuilding your entire operation after losing 10 days worth of progress takes time. A lot of time. Time which Echo didn't have because he was preparing to go on a big trip to Japan. So as a bit of a farewell gift, I decided to tame him in Argentavis to replace the one he lost in the raid. And when the day came that all of us were united once more, I decided to show him the results. Oh yeah, let me show you your new bird.
Oh, my new bird. You got me a new bird?
Yeah, I got you a replacement.
Is this my reward for saving our Megatherium? That's his name, yes?
Absolutely it is.
Oh my god! I love the name!
Yep, this is Red Riot, and this is gonna be your best friend from now on.
Yippee!
Maybe get some drops, get to know each other. That's so wholesome, isn't it? Well, there's a bit of a twist to that story, because while I was busy getting Echo a new flyer, Brandon decided to borrow Birdie's Argentavis and got it killed off-screen, promptly replacing it with another one before Birdie logged on, and, well, let's just say that this went about as well as you'd expect it to.
Was Hurricane red?
Yeah.
He's always been red?
Yeah.
I thought he was white.
What?
I thought he was like white and blue.
That could not be further from red.
I still don't believe you guys. Hurricane was always red?
Yeah.
What did you do with Hurricane, Cliff?
Why are you looking at me? I didn't do anything.
Why are you assuming that something happened to begin with? Like,
Bro, you have the
He was not red before.
You have the worst memory, and you're trying to tell us that this is not your bird.
You guys got rid of Hurricane. No, you did something.
What are you talking
take your
about?
meds.
bro, if you don't want the bird, I'll take the bird.
Why does it even matter to you?
I'm sort of not mad about it because he looks cool now.
Call that failing a mission successfully. Before this conversation could incriminate me anymore for something I didn't do, Echo took me along to help him get a new tame. Because you see, God had left something very dangerous at our base, rock golems. These things are notoriously difficult to take out because they take reduced damage. But Echo had the idea that if we use something that can circumvent that damage reduction, we might be able to take them out and clear the base. And there is a creature that might be able to do that, the humble Thylacoleo. This level 100 specimen was unfortunately going to be as good as it gets, but thankfully its level was not actually all that important because the way it deals damage is via a bleeding debuff. That deals 1% of total HP damage every second, so theoretically you could take out pretty much whatever you want in as little as 100 seconds. Also enjoy this random shot I got of Echo and I flying into the night as I was fiddling around in photo mode, something that I decided to try once again at the base, just that Birdie had something to say.
That's for lying to me.
You really want to play this game?
You lied to me.
I did not!
You could have just told me the truth.
What is the truth?
That's not Hurricane.
Did you hit Brandon? Did you hit Echo?
No.
Thank you, man. I need new gear.
Anyway, Birdie and Brandon had collected an absolute truckload of resources while Echo and I were out taming, allowing us to further upgrade our workshop with an industrial forge. Brandon was especially antsy about us making as much progress as humanly possible because he was still hoping to be able to bring back Roxy, his Facilosuchus which he lost during the raid. Because you see, whilst Roxy was dead, she did leave behind her death essence, which would allow us to attempt to revive her within 24 hours of her passing. The method by which I will get into a bit later. Because before we could even dream of attempting to do that, Brandon needed to lock in. What happened? Oh. Are you getting another bird killed?
I got micro-raptored by a, right next to a golem.
Are you getting Hurricane killed again?
Probably not.
Brother.
Wait.
Are you taking another tame into its death?
Clint's mine.
That's a communal tame!
I have the right to kill it.
It is fitting that the one creature we're trying to revive is the only one he wasn't responsible for killing. Well, I can't save him from himself, but I could upgrade our cooldown hut from thatch to adobe. When Brandon finally reclaimed his items without killing Clint, all four of us went out to the dunes in order to revive Roxy. But to be able to do that, we had to find something called an Oasisaur. You'll know what it is when you see it, but don't be mistaken, if you thought this map was hard, the dunes would definitely take the cake. With a sweltering 66 degrees of correct units, even our best desert cloth would not be able to keep us alive. Thankfully, frequent stops at waterholes and the occasional break inside a tent would extend our life long enough to continue the search, or alternatively, taking a sip from the sweet butt nectar of the jug bugs. But obviously, the heat is not the only dangerous thing out here. There are many annoying and deadly creatures waiting to eat your lunch, but one is definitely a bit more prominent than the rest. They're so annoying to attack, aren't they? Oh my god! Echo! Run away! Run away! Oh, Jesus Christ!
It was an actual jump scare. What the?
Oh my god, I did not see the trail!
I thought it grabbed me, to be honest. But I was
It looked
scared.
like it! Consider us thoroughly awake after that experience. Yes, my friends, we just ran into a death worm, and no, we had absolutely no intention of trying to fight it. The good news, once we found the oasis ore, which you know you found when you suddenly lose a few frames, we would not need to worry about that which is on the ground. Okay, allow me to be the first to say that calling whatever this is a dinosaur is a bit of a stretch, but whatever the case may be, this creature is the key to bringing back Roxy, because within its rejuvenating waters, you can attempt a challenge that can revive your dead tames. And according to Birdie, it is actually quite simple. All we have to do is put the death essence of one of our tames in the water, survive a few waves of combat, and boom! Not only is the creature alive, but the oasis ore is ours. Except, all this is easier said than done. The first couple of waves might be a cakewalk, but towards the end of it, they got so incredibly tanky that even with a 4-man tribe of FPS players, we could not stop them fast enough from chomping into the death essence. Oh, dang
Oh
it,
my
man.
God, dude, that was hard. What the hell?
This is really tough.
I'm out of ammo.
We need better guns. It's not even an ammo problem, we need better guns. It's a good thing I didn't use Roxy's death essence on our first attempt. But yeah, not only did we struggle to deliver enough damage into these sponges that they call creatures, our primitive weaponry also barely held enough durability to get through the event. So you know what that means, right? It was time to go drop hunting again. And also get another 120 Procoptodon for when Brandon inevitably gets Clint killed. Anyway, we had a couple of treasure maps, and while they did give us high quality loot, they did not grant us the items we needed for our specific circumstance. While Birdie and Brandon split up to farm land beacons, Echo and I decided to check the one place we haven't gone for drops just yet. A cave. Oh my god. Holy! Oh my goodness gracious!
Weapon. Where are you?
There's a rock golem protecting this cave entrance. Okay, closing off the cave entrance is one thing, but a rock golem? Really, God? Anyway, this was not a problem that Echo and his Thyla named Regulus could not handle, and once that rocky son of a gun was taken care of, we could blow up the walls to enter the cave, after I had gone back to base to repair my gear because I also blew myself up on the first attempt. Now, obviously, caves on this map are not exactly very difficult, but we did encounter some very suspiciously high-level creatures inside what was supposed to be an early-game dungeon. Thankfully, Snout and Regulus would have absolutely no trouble disposing of whatever was in front of us. There were plenty of bugs to give me the Megatherium buff, and Echo's bleed attacks could take care of any rock golems blocking our way. But unfortunately for us, the drops still didn't deliver. But hey, at least we get the first artifact. I mean, while in Rome, am I right? At the end of the day, the best thing we found was a pretty decent compound bow from a red drop with a ring, but somehow I doubt this alone was going to cut it. Meaning, it was time for plan B. Turrets. Okay, wait. I know that you're about to comment that you can't build on top of a wild oasisaur, but you know what you can put on top of it? A parasaur with guns. Birdie and Echo had gone out to tame one such specimen while Brandon was working on getting enough ammunition to beat the event. As for me...
What the hell? Cliff!
Birdie, I'm so sorry, but we need a sacrifice for the oasisaur.
Oh, yeah, you know what? Never mind. Go.
Actually, he's not wrong, though.
No, that makes sense. Go ahead. Go for it.
I really do hope that makes sense because Birdie was the one who did the research, and according to him, you are not supposed to use the creature you actually want to revive for the taming process because once it is tamed, the essence is lost. And now that we have everything we needed to get Roxy back, we made our way to the dunes and looked for the trademark loading hitch to find the oasisaur once more. At which point it is worth mentioning that this creature, just like any other buildable platform in the game, is extremely glitchy. We had to wait for the perfect moment where it stood still to throw out the parasaur, but thankfully all of us stayed completely calm and collected during the process.
Now.
Oh, no, stay, please! As I was saying, naturally placing the turrets down was every bit as annoying as keeping the parasaur on this damn creature. We also made sure to add the oasisaur itself to the list of exceptions in the turret settings to make sure it doesn't get accidentally nuked. But even with a total of 4 turrets and hundreds of bullets, we were not going to rely on this thing alone. We all brought our best weapons along because now it was do or die. We had a mere 23 minutes until Roxy's death essence expired, meaning if we don't do it now, it's over. Oh, the turret's kind of slapped. What the?
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, damn.
It works!
We might not have to do anything. This is great.
You know what? Maybe we don't need our guns after all. Obviously, our Warhawk had no trouble dealing with the early waves, but even when the vultures got more tanky, we were a far cry from losing. All of us celebrated when the tame was complete until the sudden realization struck that Cheesecake was alive. The info we got was wrong, and even during the taming process, the oasisaur had revived the creature we intended to use as a sacrifice. And the worst part, we can't revive another creature until another 24 hours have passed. solidly putting us into the Roxy is gone territory. God himself had to come down to explain to us that whatever Birdie told us, this was not how the Oasosaur worked.
Birdie?
Anyway, say hello to our new Faslosukis Rokari. If you want to see how painful it is to tame these things, I'd like to refer you to the previous episode. Anywho, now that we had a new Faslo, a Thyla, a family of Megatheriums, and a bird, we were ready to take back our base.
Okay, Cliff, don't go there. Don't go there, Cliff.
He built turrets around our base?
Yeah, so about that, not only was our compound absolutely swarming with minions, we now also had to find a way to deal with these turret batteries. Now obviously, Brandon had prepared a bunch of explosives, which he intended to use on the rock golems, but this was a great time for us to find out that turrets can in fact shoot down projectiles, making this a lot more difficult than we initially anticipated. We did find an angle that wasn't within turret range, but was within range of a rock golem, but when we tried to pull it towards us, we were greeted by a whole committee of PTs, RGs, and of course, Microraptors. I don't know what kind of lunatic just leaves a bunch of Troodons and Microraptors to secure a raid, but this was now something we had to deal with. And let's not forget about the frogs. Most of us had died multiple times just on our first attempt, but after finally having killed the annoying Vanguard, Echo and Regulus could take their time dealing with the golems. Which is when we realized that these things were holding onto our loot. That's right, a lot of the things we had on our bodies and tames were now in the inventory of that defeated rock golem, which was honestly quite relieving because that meant we could reclaim what was lost rather than knowing it had despawned. Anyway, with the rock golems taken care of, we could proceed to exterminate the remaining creatures still hiding in our base, leaving the final problem, the turret batteries. Now, since we couldn't get within range of these things to drop a C4 charge, we needed to get creative. Approaching them with a riot shield was a good idea, but unfortunately, we didn't have one with enough durability to get us to close the distance, leading us to Plan O, the Oasosaur. Here's the thing, that goofy-looking spaceship has a very strict diet and only consumes potted plants. Those are an absolute pain in the butt to acquire compared to just tossing a bunch of berries into a trough, so naturally, nobody wanted to do it. Our brilliant idea involved parking the Oasosaur on top of a turret to block the line of sight so we could place a ballista close enough to tear down the battery, obviously killing the creature in the process. And stupid as that idea might sound on paper, it actually worked. So now, the only thing left standing between us and outright victory, besides losing Martin, was the large turret battery at the back of our base. Seeing how much we struggled destroying the small ones, and also seeing how we were completely out of spear bolts before even making a dent in this thing, you might assume that we were out of options. That was until Echo came up with a high IQ plan of riding Regulus into battle in an attempt to launch off of his mount towards the battery.
He's not close enough.
Regulus!
He's stuck on a tree.
He's getting stuck! Regulus, follow me! Regulus! Regulus, no!
You making him follow was not the play, I don't think.
No, watch me follow you!
Dude, I think the saddle saved him.
It really did. He's at 3,100 of 8,300.
If it's stupid, but it does end up working, is it actually still stupid? Whatever the case may be, Echo closed the distance and was able to place a couple of C4 chargers to take down the battery, revealing all of our base's loot. That's right, every cabinet, every workbench, every container, all that used to be in our base was hidden inside this building. Obviously, reclaiming material goods was only one part of the equation. Roxy was lost forever, but her spirit will live on within Rokari. And next time, well, there won't be a next time, because next episode it is our turn to attack. There are few things in ARK that feel as satisfying as a successful raid, or at least I assume so. I've never actually done it myself. I am a certified PvE Andy, and now that me and the boys are tasked with not only beating Scorched Earth in 100 days, but doing so whilst fighting the admin of the server himself, I have no choice but to learn, and that fast. Making today's episode a very special occasion, because for all of us it's going to be the first time ever that we are raiding a base. More than one, in fact, because God had gotten very creative in his efforts of prolonging our stay on this ARK, and we had to find a way to deal with that, but I am getting ahead of myself. A lot has happened since the last episode. You see, after liberating our old base from the clutches of the server admin, Brandon and I decided to really get to work. It seemed obvious that our old base location and design were not going to keep us safe should God decide to raid us again. So we spent the last 10 days and change building a massive fortified town to prepare for its eventual next attack. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Stromgarde. We have giant walls to keep us protected, a workshop that is outfitted with the latest state-of-the-art machinery, a huge barn to not only house a lot of our animals, but also allow me to breed them for mutations, and of course, a landing platform to catch our own personal drops for a steady flow of loot. And I am merely scratching the surface. Trust me when I say that you'll be seeing a lot more of this base in due time, but for now, Brandon and I were destined to find out that the two of us, yeah, we were not the only ones keeping busy.
Ow, what the? Brandon?
What?
I think God found us.
What do you got?
See that thing over there? On top of these little spires?
Oh, that's problematic. Oh, look at the far left. Look far left. Look
Wait,
out in the distance.
what the hell is this?
He has a whole domain.
Don't you think that's a little overkill, man? Jeez.
Yeah, so about that, we had just found out the hard way that God had built turret batteries all across the map, not to mention a giant fortress overlooking our own base. The metal nodes right next to our base were inaccessible because of those turrets, but thankfully there were some locations just outside of turret range further away from us. That was certainly problematic because in order to beat this map, you need more than just a barn with a bunch of dinosaurs. You need weapons, and when your weapons guy can't get to the resource nodes to make them, that's a problem. But hey, at least we still got the drops, alright?
Brandon!
What?
You're gonna have to take a look at this.
Hey, what's that?
You see this bullshit, dude?
Oh, what the?
He covered our damn drops?
Somebody was having way too much fun out there, so as it turned out, if we wanted to get some farm done, we needed to take care of those batteries. I mean, at least we still got our personal drop deliveries, which Brandon was determined to defend with his own life. He was also working on a new armory to improve his weapon and ammunition manufacturing capabilities, and whilst building away, he had a brilliant idea. Now, I'm not sure how many of you guys have played Battlefield before, but if you have, I think you'll be very familiar with what we are trying to do.
I'm just gonna drop it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2,
Wait, hold on.
1. I asked if you're ready. I specifically asked if you're ready, Brandon.
I can't pull out my C4 thing while I'm on my bird.
Brandon, I specifically asked if you are ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Payload incoming.
I see it. I see it falling.
It's not getting shot.
No!
Oh!
We shot it! Oh,
Dang
that's
it!
tragic.
Ah.
That was so funny, bro.
Well, I mean, it was worth a shot. You'll be remembered, Buggy the Sheep. With the payload approach having failed, we needed to come up with a new idea of ridding ourselves of these turrets. Brandon did propose the Spider-Man tactic to see if he can get close enough to plant the C4 firsthand, but that went about as well as you'd expect it to.
So, that didn't work.
But don't worry, because we weren't out of ideas yet, because we had something that was capable of demolishing heavily reinforced structures, at least according to its own description. Now, while finding a cannon in a drop might have been free, ammunition for it certainly isn't. Every cannonball is horrendously expensive for us, considering our lack of access to vast amounts of metal nodes. But whatever we had to spare, Brandon decided to turn into cannonballs to finally destroy that battery, with a modest amount of success. And the same can be said for our ballista. Turns out those don't really do all that much against stone. Since we didn't have anywhere near enough ammo to actually do any serious damage, we had to get out of there, avoid the other fortifications, and farm some obsidian. But whatever we could get our hands on, I had a feeling it wasn't going to be enough. I decided to leave further preparations in Brandon's hands whilst taking care of my own project that is breeding a new Anki. Obviously, all of my creatures needed to be fed, so I took my Procoptodon to get berries and other basic resources to keep them alive, which is precisely when I made a huge mistake that would achieve the opposite of what I intended.
Uh-oh. Oh, shit!
Well, there goes my Procoptodon and my Jerboa. Yeah, so Brandon as well as I had a lot of trouble navigating the map with all of these turrets around. Get too close and you can say goodbye to your tame as well as your belongings, but hey, at least backup fodder could live up to his name when I used him to try and get my stuff back. Which, by the way, was a very long and arduous process because as it turns out, if you die within turret range, your body is still within turret range. But that's not something that a heavily coked up individual with a set of riot armor can't fix, right? Okay, real talk, I was going to throw in a hard cut of me dying again, but the riot shield did give me enough time to put down some metal gates to protect me from the turrets, right before I end up dying again. But at least I was making progress, until my riot shield got destroyed, and without it, well...
God damn it!
Yeah, I was straight up not having a good time, and neither was Brandon. The good news is that I did eventually get my stuff back, but rest assured knowing that this incident merely fueled my desire to get revenge. And little did I know that I would get that chance. You see, we were approaching day 30, and at that stage we weren't entirely certain yet if God intended to raid us every 10 days or not. Though seeing how much time he spent setting up all these turrets, chances are he didn't have enough time to do that in the first place, because what we got on day 30 wasn't a raid, it was...
Oh, Brandon?
What?
This sounds like a thunderstorm.
Oh my
my god, it is. I don't have C4. Alright, I'm getting a pickaxe. We're doing this the old-fashioned way.
We need something more effective than that.
I know, but we have limited time.
It's looking good.
Whoa! That was way more effective than I thought it would be. Yeah, so the thunderstorm disabled the generator and by proxy the turrets, allowing us to fire what little rocket-propelled ammunition we had without getting them shot down. And the cherry on top, we got to loot the now disabled turrets, taking their ammunition to fuel our own defenses. That's right, if that son of a gun wants to fly into our base with a stupid giant bug again, he's gonna be in a world of trouble. Which, to be fair, we were in as well, because we eventually ran out of ammo for the rocket launcher and the thunderstorm didn't last forever. Well, there goes another one of Birdie's RGs. At least we are taking care of the turrets overlooking our immediate metal farming spots, so whilst Brandon tried to get his gear back, I decided to make use of this opportunity to replenish our resources. Our defenses were about as ready as can be given our circumstances. Echo was in Japan and Birdie was in a coma, leaving only Brandon and I to defend Stromgard. But that raid we were anticipating, yeah, that never came. Instead, there was a scouting party of RGs trying to take a look at our compound before being shot down. This was certainly a bit strange, but hey, I'm not gonna look another gifted day in the mouth. Though one thing was apparent. If we are trying to liberate this ARK from God's clutches, we needed to find a better way than throwing C4 and Birdie's flyers at it. So Brandon and I decided to attempt to tame the ultimate siege weapon, the rock golem. Now, it was a bit finicky to get that thing to walk into our trap, but once it was inside, getting it tamed was surprisingly easy. All we had to do was shoot some cannonballs onto its noggin until it fell over, at which point a few pieces of kibble would turn it into our friend. And some of you might be wondering, what are you going to name it? Something so powerful and so crucial to our success on this map, something capable of tearing down buildings, able to take the fight to God himself. Well, there was only one name that seemed fitting. Tim. And you know why? Because it was Tim to fight back. Oh! Yo, that
damage!
Dude, that's free damage! What the hell?
Damage!
Why is it an Alpha Raptor?
Oh,
Yo, hit that midair! Yo! That was sick, dude. Alright, time to mess this thing up.
It does 5 damage to Tim. 2 damage.
Yeah, Tim was an absolute machine. He might not be the highest level rock golem, but it was certainly enough to take down those fortifications. And as much fun as it was to continuously throw boulders at this thing, there's even more that Tim can do.
It's Tim.
It's shooting Tim? You're just straight up walking towards it. That's insane. Don't get him killed, though.
It does hurt a little bit. It tickles to death, but I got it, I think.
Dude, I think they ran out of bullets. The generator's still intact. This absolutely blew my mind. I'm sure that anyone who's ever PvP'd on this map before knows how good these creatures are, but I've never had a rock golem, so to me, this was an awesome experience. And of course, while we were at it, we also began working towards liberating some of the other drop locations in our immediate vicinity. Well, Brandon did anyway, because my job was to continue working on fortifying our own base. Only because God didn't attack today doesn't mean he's not going to do it tomorrow, and the more AA turrets we have, the safer I'm going to feel. Because let's just say that God wasn't done trying to scout our base. Stromgard was absolutely littered in RGs as they all fell to the might of our turrets, making it only fitting that Brandon killed yet another iteration of Typhoon. Eye for an eye, Argentavis for an Argentavis, I suppose. But there was one problem. We didn't have enough turrets to equip all of our towers, and to make more turrets, we desperately needed silica pearls for electronics. The bad news? God had covered the red obelisk, our main source of silica pearls, and as such made farming that resource basically impossible. But it gets worse, because on my way to Red Orb, I found something even more terrifying, and the reason why we haven't been attacked, because apparently God was very busy constructing a massive compound. We had a lot of problems to deal with, the most imminent one being securing our own base, and by proxy getting rid of that fortification to make that happen. We only took a single day to prepare for the raid, during which God had already made a lot more progress on that massive compound, which was terrifying but a problem for future us, because present us was now trying to figure out how to liberate Red Orb, and much to our delight, we found out that plant species turrets can in fact not stop our rockets. Though obviously we were not going to be able to just sit there and tear the structure down in peace, there were creatures in and around it which now we would have to deal with. But something written. Wait, God is not here.
God's not here?
Maybe we have a chance to.
It's just free riding? Hey,
Hey!
let's go!
Dude, this is far less scary when God isn't here.
Thank God.
As it turned out, we found the perfect window of opportunity to try and liberate Red Orb because of that giant construction site still not being done. Brandon kept laying into the structure whilst I was trying to keep an eye out for another ambush, and this combination definitely ended up working fairly well. Now, we did freak out a touch when an Alpha T-Rex joined the party, but then we remembered, wait, Tim is here, and he takes like negative damage, so after taking care of that, we could absolutely go to town on that building to give us access to the surrounding silica pearls materials once more. But whilst demolishing it, we noticed that one part of the build was not made of adobe.
What is
Oh,
this?
what is that?
Cryo
fridge?
fridge? A level 225
What?
mantis?
Hold, is it ours now?
Look
It's
at that.
ours! We have a max level mantis! I mean, it's terrible.
It's a mantis.
But it's a max level. Okay, we certainly were not expecting to get rewarded for destroying one of God's creations. The whole point was to get back to a status quo of being able to farm resources, but an actual reward? Something about that felt odd. Though don't be mistaken, it's not like God suddenly decided to be nice to us. There was another turret battery around, and when trying to take care of it, Brandon found out the hard way that there weren't just turrets on the outside, but the inside as well. That, and the fact that a nearby drop location wasn't protected by turrets, but by a narcotic trap. The means by which we were being tortured was certainly getting more sophisticated, but for now, we decide to head back to Stromgard because for putting in so much work into that raid, I decide to reward Brandon with an Argentavis egg. I've been combining the stats from all the Argies we had, you know, the ones Brandon didn't get killed, and now he had the privilege of hatching the first egg that came out of my breeding efforts. You got a mutated one, what?
Damn, I got a shiny.
That's insane luck, actually.
Hand-fed comfort food, cooked fish meat.
Oh god, don't tell me that's the one thing we don't have.
Cooked prime fish meat.
It's not gonna take it. Cryopot it real quick. So you got the fish?
How do I feed it?
Oh, you put it in your 0 slot.
Right.
Did you just...
I just ate it.
Brandon? You know, I'm starting to feel like taking care of all the breeding for our tribe might have been a bit of a knowledge gap. Either way, Brandon had a new best friend in Emerald, and I could only hope that raising the bird himself would finally motivate him to take better care of it. Emerald would grow up to become our strongest RG to date, so losing him would be devastating not just to Brandon, but our entire tribe, making him the perfect candidate for an ascended Argentavis saddle we found in a drop. We also decided to power level him via methods I'd rather not disclose in detail. What I would like to disclose is that Brandon and I were not going to have to raid the other obelisks on our own. Oh, did I not mention that? Yeah, Red Ob was not the only POI that got the Fortnite treatment. Birdie and Echo were finally awake, having missed out on a lot of progress that we made between our last sessions. That also meant that we had to go to our old base to give them a ride, allowing me an opportunity to catch up with them. We showed them around every building we had constructed so far, and whilst that did invoke a certain degree of awe, nothing was more awe-inspiring than seeing Brandon's new rides.
Oh my god, whoa.
He's so green,
It's so
dude.
green.
Honestly, I feel like I should like claim to this bird after all the birds that he's killed of mine.
Look, Birdie, Typhoon is still alive.
It's not Typhoon.
Okay, you know what? I can't do this to you. Brandon has killed several iterations of Typhoon while you were gone.
To be fair.
Seriously?
Yep. Okay, you know what? Birdie, I think you deserve an imprinted bird after what Brandon has done to Typhoon. Okay, I will put a few eggs into Trisha, and you can hatch them, and whichever one you like, you can just make yours.
Bro's about to choose his starter.
Real, actually. Oh!
Green one.
This one is even more green!
No
What the hell?
way. Hold on.
Did I get schematics?
Yep, you sure did.
The urge to left click right now is
Don't do it,
hard.
Brandon. Don't do it. Honestly, this just feels like pure and distilled karma at play. For how happy Brandon was about getting a unique Argentavis, Birdie getting one that looked even better honestly served him right for how many of his flyers end up being sacrificed, causing him to name that bird fittingly the Cooler Emerald. Birdie and Echo also went about creating their own houses in our base, and you'd really think that with all the space we have now, they would get really creative with what they built, but Birdie disagreed. Either way, it was not my place to berate them about their house designs because it was about time to begin our mission. Our next goal was the liberation of the Green Obelisk. Our tribe arrived just as night fell upon us for some preliminary scouting. This one definitely felt a lot more defended, though we did notice that the structure ahead was not actually covering the obelisk itself. While that did strike us as a little strange, we still had to come up with a way of raiding a creature-defended, fortified metal structure. Yo, what if we destroy the feeding trough and they just die of hunger?
Yeah, we'll come back in a few weeks.
Yo, what do you know? What we could wait for?
What?
It's just an electric storm.
That's hard RNG.
Oh! It's
Yes!
lightning!
There's
Lightning!
no shot! Okay.
Let's go!
Talk about creating an opening. Even though our intention was to scout the compound, this was an opportunity we couldn't miss out on. Though none of us questioned why it was that we were able to use cryopods during a thunderstorm, even more strangely, we noticed that the turrets protecting this compound were not shooting at us, instead firing at creatures only. A lot of these things just didn't add up, especially the bugged out thunderstorm, but we figured we'd rather be safe than sorry, using Tim to tear down the foundation on which the turrets were placed to get rid of them for good. But when we finally got to check out the building, even more questions ended up arising.
Is this like a creature pen?
Wait, let me have a look. What am I looking at?
So like this is the way he wants us to go in, right? What if we go in the way that we want to go in?
Yeah, I wanted to go in the back.
Echo?
Echo?
Give me a second.
I'm glad somebody brought a flashlight.
Hey, you're welcome.
I didn't.
So why'd you guys close the door?
What are you doing? Talk to us. Oh, there's this turret on the ceiling. There's a turret on the ceiling, bro.
You can put turrets on the ceiling.
Yeah, but it's lighting.
Well, if it was on, it would have shot you. This was incredibly strange. The thunderstorm clearly was not disabling our electronics, and yet none of these turrets were firing at us. Either way, we still decided to follow Brandon's plan of creating our own entrance, blowing through the stone layer instead of attacking the metal one. All hell broke loose when suddenly an army of frogs was unleashed upon this world. For a creature that is not supposed to spawn on this map, we certainly had to fight a lot of them, the method of which Brandon decided was fire. Thankfully, the rest of us wasn't deranged enough to blast explosives in melee range, instead taking care of the toads with Regulus and gunfire. Now, we would have exterminated every single one of them, but it is entirely possible that some of them got away when we got distracted by another building. A full metal box labeled Armory was housing what turned out to be a squad of monkeys, all of which were incredibly high level. Naturally, this piqued our interest. I mean, one does not simply create an armory defended by high-level creatures without trying to hide something. We were antsy to get our hands on whatever that was, but what we needed now was a plan.
Blow it up?
No,
Put another
no,
one
we're
down?
not.
That is the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Doing that.
Yeah, well, not that plan. Not only did we have absolutely no faith in him not blowing us up in the process, but we also needed to be very strategic about this since A, we were limited on resources, and B, we would have to deal with the monkeys once we got inside. We ended up agreeing to allow Brandon to use one C4 charge to destroy the stone foundation through which we were hoping we could strike at the monkeys. Unfortunately, Regulus could not make use of that opening, and even worse than that, Brandon got himself scooped up by getting too close, and now his entire inventory was in the belly of one of those things. We spent the entire rest of the night trying to figure out a way to fix this problem. We didn't have enough bullets to take them out via gunfire, and any attempt of bouncing boulders into the foundations ended up being futile. When all of that ended up getting us nowhere, I figured we only had one way to come out on top. Okay, I do have a very risky idea.
What is it?
If they're aggroed onto a Rokari, and I get them to the other side of the wall, you go in there with Regulus, and you cryopod him out, and you kill the monkeys, so we can get the explosives back.
I am.
Coming quickly. He's not gonna make it.
Get him, get him, get him.
Oh, come on.
Save Regulus. One more.
Yes, yes,
One more. Let's go!
Yes!
Okay, where's your stuff? Where's your damn stuff?
Light work, no reaction.
Light work, no reaction. Good job, Regulus.
He's half HP, bro.
Woohoo! The mission was a success, and now we had unrestricted access to the armory. There were a couple more locked doors left in the cube, which we could use our now retrieved explosives to blow open. And what awaited us inside? More cryopods with a very odd selection of creatures. After ransacking this place, we decided to go back to the other buildings, and there were, in fact, even more odd things about them. For one, there were no more creatures or turrets protecting this place besides the one that pointed at the door and didn't fire at us. There was also a very odd room that, other than a bunch of chairs and fridges, was completely empty. Another kind of office area that we broke into by using our shotguns with a note inside that actually gave us the code to unlock the doors to the armory. Whoops. And lastly, something that looked like a workshop where we could not only find another generator, but also a flamethrower together with the requisite ammunition for it. The last building looked like just a metal cube holding, of all things, a whole army of Orthopluras. Convinced that there had to be more to it than meets the eye, Echo decided to take the flamethrower and exterminate the bugs to make way for more exploration, but upon closer inspection, it really was just a box. All of this was extremely strange. It differed from the utilitarian designs God used up until now. I mean, what would he need an office for? We couldn't really piece together what this facility was for and who made it, but there was one thing we did know. Green Op was officially liberated. You know what that means, right? There was only one obelisk left that needed a hefty dose of freedom, but that, my friends, is a story for next time. 37 days into our 100-day challenge, our tribe has gotten used to a certain level of PvP harassment. I mean, granted, this might be nothing like your average PvP server, but having to fight somebody who can manifest whatever they want certainly has its challenges, meaning it was only appropriate that we wanted to take something away from him. The time to sit idle was over. We had already liberated the red and blue obelisks from his clutches, and today we're planning to finish the job. God can put up whatever structures he wants, but if there's a foundation, we are going to try and destroy it, making this our biggest raid to date, because, ladies and gentlemen, Blue Op was on a completely different level. But before we had what it takes to attack that base, we had to get some farm done. With the help of the latest addition to our roster, Tim, we could finally get rid of the turret batteries that stopped us from accessing loot drop locations, as well as those that were overlooking rich metal farming spots. With unrestricted access to all of these resources, our tribe was once again thriving, so much so that I decided to build something rather expensive.
Oh my god! What the hell is that?
Oh, it's not instant! It's not instant at all! What the hell?
It's awful!
Ooh. Okay, what do we get for that?
Ooh.
We got kibble! We got extraordinary kibble for that!
Damn. Cliff, do you know if Birdie took better emerald with him? Out of curiosity, nothing to do with this.
You are not throwing his bird into the grinder, bro. Looks like Brandon never got over the fact that Bird got a cooler looking Argentavis than him. Anyway, the bio grinder ended up being a fantastic investment because now we could get as much kibble as we needed without the tedium of having to keep up our greenhouse farm. That will become very useful because you know what we haven't done in almost 40 days into this challenge? Actually prepare for the boss fight. Let's not forget that we need to defeat the Alpha Manticore in order to ascend off this ark, but so far we were so busy defending ourselves against God that we had next to no time to actually make that happen. And that wasn't going to change anytime soon because as long as God had access to all of these fortifications, we would not be able to do any preparation in the first place. So after Blue Up, we went to complete the hat trick, but once we arrived, we immediately noticed that something was very off.
Do you guys see like that stuff radiating out of that adobe hut?
Yeah, that's like light.
Oh yeah, what is that?
We would have to approach this with a lot of caution, or at least so I thought, because where Brandon and I decide to cryopod our flyers, Echo and Birdie decide to leave them out to defend themselves. Something we didn't have to do just yet because we noticed that the turret defending the adobe structure was completely disabled. And upon closer inspection, it had also almost run out of bullets, which was strange because this was the first time we had arrived here, so whatever it was shooting at, it was not us. There was another building made of adobe next to that facility, but with the doors locked, all we could do was feel the allure of an open window that did not let us enter. Honestly, there were so many red flags about this place that none of us really wanted to be the ones making the first step. After you.
No, after you.
No, I think you should go inside.
No, age before beauty.
I mean, honestly, like I've always been going first, and I don't want to be like main character energy. So
yeah, but you know, this is your story that you're gonna tell your grandkids and stuff.
Yeah, but you are part of my story, and I really think that you should be like the leading role in this specific raid, you know?
All right, yeah, let's go.
Okay. It took a little bit of convincing, but the Vanguard was officially dispatched. Now, I really wish I knew of a good way to go about describing what we found here. There was a super high-level, angry-looking turtle on top of a glass ceiling that led to a pool full of frogs, and not just any frogs, but aberrant ones. The gang split up to search the facility. Considering we hadn't been attacked yet, chances were that this was not a hostile compound. But gamers, things were about to get even more strange than a pool full of frogs. Log entry 5. While the initial results are promising, I remain cautious. The true purpose of the island and the ARKs remain unclear, and we may be on the brink of an unprecedented discovery. Or danger.
Cliff?
Yes?
Come here. What are those?
What the hell is this?
What?
So it turns out that the glow we spotted from afar came from these light bugs. Between these creatures and the aberrant frogs down below, we began seeing more and more things that don't actually belong on this ark. And on the note of things that don't belong here, after breaching and clearing the office area, we found a couple of cryo fridges that had creatures some of you might be familiar with from our island series. Namely, NASCAR and Prius. Oh, and also Lippy. But things were about to get even more exciting than that. Log entry 4, subjects Mobile and Verbin are dangerous. Request to transfer to a safer facility. Oh, to a safer facility?
They brought Mobile and Verbin.
Wait, Mobile's on this map?
Mobile?
Yes.
A little bit of context, Mobile was our strongest T-Rex from a 100 Days Island playthrough. She went through several near-death experiences and ultimately ended up being instrumental to our success in the Overseer battle. Considering we currently had no army to speak of, getting her back could be an absolute game-changer for our upcoming Manticore fight. The problem was retrieving her because let's just say that we had a sneaking suspicion which facility she was transported to. But before getting to that, we were determined to finish exploring this building. There was another locked door that we didn't dare to use C4 on, considering we didn't know what was behind it and how the creatures around us would react should we do that. But something about that frog pool was odd, so I decided to take a look at it by breaking through one of the glass ceilings. That caused all the non-hostile frogs to fight the hostile frog, and when checking its inventory, I found another cryopod. Not that this was something I could deeply investigate, because suddenly I was in trouble. Oh shit! Help me! Help me! Shoot the glass! Quick! Shoot the frogs! Oh god! I'm reloading! Oh shit! Run! Can I shoot you guys? Can I shoot?
I can't shoot.
I cannot shoot. I cannot shoot right now. Oh my lord!
It's like shooting toads in a barrel.
At least somebody did not lose their humor in all that panic. Getting all that pool was rather difficult because for some reason I could not attach grappling hooks to any of the walls around me. And whilst I was fumbling around, I was getting boiled alive like a frog because while the building was made of adobe, the pool was built out of metal. And soon enough, I was not even able to stay conscious.
What do you want me to do with him? Uh-oh.
Bring the bird in here and get us out.
Well, we got a problem.
What's the problem? How did you get it?
It is hot in here.
Yep, we were in a lot of trouble. I mean, eventually I managed to hop on Emerald to get the hell out of that pool, but the rest of my tribe was not so lucky. I was trying to grab them out of it, but this is where what we decide to dub the Argentavis superposition bug ended up disagreeing, because every time I grabbed any of them with Emerald's talents, they were promptly teleported back to their point of origin, meaning their only hope of survival was getting on the bird themselves. And you're in the water, Swan. How did all three of you end up down there?
Get on the bird! Get on the bird! Get on the bird!
I have 1 HP, bro.
Get on the bird!
He's not coming down.
Get on him! Why is the water so hot?
This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Can you reach a bird?
Yeah, but it won't let me ride!
God damn it.
I don't want to access the inventory! Why is that the default? Thank God, Jesus.
Of all the things that God probably expected to kill us, I can tell you with absolute certainty this was not on the list. You know what was on my list though? Birdie's Argentavis predictably dying because he refused to put it into a cryopod. It's a miracle Red Riot got out in one piece considering he got stuck in terrain. At that point we were done playing. It was Tim for action. Our rock golem had absolutely no trouble annihilating the adobe structure, and our Phyla had just as little trouble winning a war of attrition against that high level turtle.
It's like the Oasis thing, and then we got a note. You want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, in case of emergency, touch the strange looking walls.
Strange looking walls?
What? These are backwards.
Wait, let me get Tim.
Oh, they do it!
Wait, what?
Holy
Dude! What the hell? Are we night maxing right now, dude? I know we came here to liberate the obelisk, but stealing an ascendant set of flak armor was definitely a nice bonus. So much of a nice bonus that Echo completely forgot what we came here for, riding Regulus right into the as of yet unliberated obelisk, much to the terror of our entire tribe. Thankfully, nobody died in the process. Speaking of terror, we kind of forgot about putting a bed down for Birdie, so he had to walk all the way back to us and requested saving from a ravenous pack of terror birds. But once that was done, we employed the help of Tim to break into the neighboring adobe structure as well, within which we found a note telling us that killing the turtle could be very beneficial. Yes, we've done the puzzle backwards again. Either way, getting back some of our old tames from the island was pretty nice, but none of them would be all that useful to us in our attempts to destroy that giant metal structure. Some preliminary scouting was in order. Echo decided to sacrifice himself to confirm that these turrets do indeed fire at us, and by doing that, also found out how close we could get before being lit up. Though revealing our presence like that probably was not the best idea we ever had, since all of a sudden a band of aberrant monkeys attacked us out of nowhere. How we went through all of this commotion without attracting their attention before was absolutely beyond me, but activating the turrets once seemingly triggered some kind of defense protocol. Fighting this wouldn't have been a problem, wasn't it for Brandon accidentally having tossed out Emerald with cryo sickness. Listen, we already lost one high value Argentavis. I was not going to let another one go without a fight. And trust me when I say that this was a fight not in our favor. So much not in our favor that we decided to retreat once Emerald had woken up. Listen, the problem was that even assuming that Tim did have enough HP to soak dozens of turrets at once, he did not have the ability to damage metal. And making enough C4 to break into that base would be a very expensive and time-consuming endeavor. Our solution? Arthroplura, and having Birdie raise a new Argentavis. Now, the reason Arthros would be vital to our success is because these things are incredibly good at tearing down structures. As we experienced when we got raided the first time, there's no cheaper way of destroying a metal wall than by letting one of these things have at it. Echo and Brandon went out to tame one of these things because not only do I find bugs incredibly gross, I also had my eyes on a different tame. Those of you having seen our island playthrough might have seen Birdie and I struggle to tame a Ceratosaurus. And well, let's just say that it was Tim to rectify that, because with the help of our rock golem and his massive physical damage reduction, getting my hands on one of these should be an absolute piece of cake. Oh my god, I had the wrong tame eat it. That's really bad.
You had the what?
I had my Jerboa eat it.
Cliff.
Unless you're an idiot. Thankfully, I still had some blood to spare, so now I had to scramble to take out a few more Ceratos in order to collect their spines for a replacement cocktail. Trust me, we know all about how quickly that drunken meter can go down, so Birdie decided to watch our tame whilst I went out hunting. But once a new cocktail was fashioned, things did go exactly according to plan. We finally got a Cerato to 100% drunkenness, after which all we had to do was feed it kibble until it became our friend. I decided to name our brand new Ceratosaurus Mrs. Greenapple. If you know what song I'm trying to reference with this creature, do make sure to comment it down below. But finally, after living with the shame of having failed to tame one of these things back on the island, Birdie and I had redeemed ourselves. Now, if you thought that Brandon and Echo had just as much success on their mission, you'd be correct. These god gamers brought back not just one but two Arthropluras in Slippy and Millie, bolstering our ranks and allowing us to take the fight to God, or at least to take the fight to its metal structures. All we had to do now was power level our creatures via completely ethical means, and we were off to the the races. The plan was simple. Brandon and Tim would go in to soak the turrets on one side, opening the way for our Arthurs to assault that side of the wall. Meanwhile, me, Echo, Regulus, and Mrs. Greenapple would stay a safe distance away, waiting for whatever ambush would try to stop us so that we can protect Tim. Birdie would simply sit on the Arthur until the coast was clear, which worked incredibly well. Slippy was on his way to chew his way through the wall when Brandon decided to take Tim for a bit of a walk. Soaking all these turrets had taken a toll on him, and things were only gonna get worse when that ambush we were waiting for finally arrived. An army of crocodiles had swarmed us. Deinosuchus, much like Thylas, have the ability to inflict bleed damage, meaning Tim, who was already hurt, was in big trouble.
Oh, Tim might die. Tim's gonna die. Tim's gonna die. Tim's gonna die. Tim's gonna die.
Retreat quick!
I'm trying.
There's a Deinosuchus on me!
Things were falling apart, and that quick. With no HP to survive the onslaught and no stamina to run away, Tim eventually fell to the might of the crocodile army, while Mrs. Greenapple managed to get to safety, even if just barely. One thing was obvious. Tim had saved our lives. A tank so magnificent that even in death, he still managed to hold the aggro of every single Deinosuchus left standing. We truly could not have asked for a better rock golem, but still, losing Tim was a huge blow to our tribe's combat prowess. And yet, we had no choice but to continue. I'll be damned if we let his sacrifice be in vain. This obelisk will be liberated, even if it's the last dang thing that I do.
Does anybody have do you have any more explosives?
I have plenty.
Well, if you blow up more space, it's just gonna open up LOS for the turret. We had a problem. Whilst breaking into the building was no issue, actually getting ourselves in there was a lot more difficult, because you see, there were turrets on the inside facing the walls, meaning suddenly all that space we secured was no longer secure thanks to the hole in the wall. Words cannot describe how much I missed him in these hours. It's very anticlimactic, but the only way we got into that building was by dying on repeat for so long that eventually we were blessed by a thunderstorm that disabled the generators fueling the turrets. We had a short window of opportunity to blow open as many walls as possible in order to find those generators, all the while fighting back creatures trying to stop us. Or at least some of us were fighting whilst I was looting a vault, but eventually the generator was found and eliminated. Now I could tell you how excited all of us were about getting our hands on gliders and pretty much completely useless hazard gear, but all of that paled in comparison to us finally reclaiming our beloved T-Rex.
She is back! Yes! Mobile is back! Yes!
Oh, I missed you so much.
Mobile was back. After surviving myriad near-death experiences on the island, she was now back to help us with yet another boss fight. Now, there was one final tower left standing as part of this complex, which at that point we figured we might as well destroy just for the sake of it. It did have its own turrets and generators, so blowing it up did take a little bit of effort and care, but what we found inside of it, you know what? Just take a look for yourself.
Guys, you wanna know something's funny?
What?
There's rocket launchers and rockets in here.
We did it backwards again!
The day might never come that we raid one of these compounds in the correct order, though this was a bit of a different scenario. Finding clues was one thing, but why the hell would God give us the tools necessary to raid his fortifications? Almost like he wanted us to succeed. None of this made any sense to us, but what we did know was that every single obelisk on the ARK was finally liberated from his clutches. And if there's one thing our time on this desert has taught us, it's that he is not going to take this lying down. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in trouble. For all the raiding we did on the last episode, we underestimated the possibility of getting raided ourselves. We made it our mission to liberate this ARK from the clutches of the server admin, and now we had to face his wrath. The worst part about it, we didn't know how much trouble that actually meant, because the raid we had to defend ourselves against was absolutely massive. But I am getting ahead of myself. Listen, our prime directive was still trying to defeat the Alpha Manticore to ascend off this dang desert. And in order to achieve that, we needed the artifacts. So after spending a few days preparing for this excursion, Birdie, Brandon, and I decided to head towards the dunes in order to find another artifact cave. And we did find it, just that getting inside was not going to be easy.
Oh!
You almost died.
Yup, there's turrets inside.
What is that?
What that is a lot of trouble. I mean, I thought putting a rock elemental in front of a cave entrance was messed up, but turning it into an armed fortification? Really, God? Unfortunately, there was no way for us to get in there without getting shot, meaning our only solution was fighting fire with fire, and thankfully, the guy responsible for creating said fire had just caught up to us. But because we fully expected to die several times over in our attempts of breaking inside, I went out of my way to grab some resources in order to craft a couple of beds, but I did insist on more precautions than just that. If something was to go wrong and we had to fly to the sky, I didn't want the turrets on top to immediately turn us into Swiss cheese, so using the climbing picks we stole from the last raid, I decided to get a little creative.
Alright, I have an idea. I don't know if it's gonna work, which is why I took my gear off, but might be an angle here. Oh! Oh! Up.
Oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're cooking.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
With which button do I throw the C4?
It's whichever hand you have it in. So left hand is throw, right hand is boom.
Got you. Oh,
You tanked so much damage. Oh, you did something.
I did indeed, even though I regret putting my gear back on once I made it to the top, because somehow being around the corner did not protect it from getting destroyed. The good news was that I had also destroyed the generator powering the rest of the turrets, meaning we were free to enter. Just a few walls were separating us from the cave entrance, so naturally we decided to use even more brute force to progress. Just to immediately get chased back out again, because turrets were not the only thing we had to worry about, there was also an Alpha Raptor. Thankfully, that thing could not leave the confines of this building, so taking it out was rather trivial once we had noticed its existence, especially because this game was impeccably designed and we could just attack it through the wall. While we were doing that, Birdie was off collecting some silk so that we could repair our gear before entering the cave proper, which, just like the last one, was absolutely filled to the brim with high-level creatures. I mean, if God decided to put an Alpha Raptor here, who is to say he's not also responsible for this?
Well, I have mega rabies.
Stay away from me. Needless to say that this was a major pain in the ass. Not only were the creatures inside incredibly high level, but there was also an absolute truckload of them. I was honestly happy to have Mrs. Greenapple by my side because with her passive, at least our teams would get some amount of healing in the process. Though as much as I was blaming God for all the trouble we had to go through, who needs enemies when this is your ally?
Does my gun hurt friendly dinosaurs?
Yes, a lot. Ow, dude, don't shoot my dino, damn it!
I didn't.
You literally did! I see my HP, dog! Him being our firearms expert truly was unfortunate. Once the cryo cooldown was over and we could get mobile back out, things were getting a lot easier, at least until she couldn't fit once again. Not like she was the only one, all of us had to cryo our tames and continue on foot until one such time arose that we needed them again. I was a little worried about Echo and Regulus not being here because I was fairly certain we would have to fight more rock elementals, but as it turned out, that concern was completely unfounded, because Rokari and Mobile had absolutely no trouble taking on that job. Now, disregarding that, for some reason, cave drops were absolute cheeks on this map, there was a box right next to this one holding a note. Said note detailed some coordinates with the message, "Help awaits all who free the Titan Slayer." Okay, that's random. We had more pressing concerns for now. There was still a ludicrous amount of creatures between us and the artifact, so whatever that Titan Slayer is, it would have to wait. Also, the drops just keep getting worse. But eventually, we got to a large cavernous space that brought back some memories from ASE. I see a red drop over there.
Yo, can't wait to get 5 trank arrows out of that.
Sweet.
I don't like this bridge.
No, it's not a bridge. It's not a bridge.
It
It's not a bridge. Come back, come back.
Kind of looks like a bridge.
You have to jump it. Yeah, I did remember falling to my death here way back when, which, I mean, did that make me a beach bop? Let me know if you ever died in this cave back in ASE, or heck, even in ASA. Gonna make me feel less bad about myself. Either way, Birdie was determined to make that jump, so he left all of his belongings with Mobile before happily hopping towards that hot drop. And that went really well. Until it didn't.
Hello, beautiful red drop.
What do you got?
Yeah, it's a miracle he didn't get squished. The rock elemental was so determined to catch its prey that it actually decided to pursue it even at the cost of its own life. Which, honestly, does make me feel a little better about myself as well. And what did we go through all that trouble for? That's right, an Ascendant Parasaur saddle. Totally worth it. Now, to get to the artifact, we would need to scale this entrance. That would be quite easy for myself, who had the foresight to bring grappling hooks. The same cannot be said for my 2 tribe members. But as if one miracle feat was not enough for the day, Birdie somehow managed to climb that mountain on the back of Mobile, leaving Brandon as the only one incapable of getting up. But that wasn't a problem. Between Birdie, me, and our tames, we would have absolutely no trouble fighting our way to the artifact, and in due time, it was ours. With the cave run complete, we could not help but wonder about that Titan Slayer, completely putting aside the fact that we had no idea who left that note and why they would leave it in a cave specifically. If whatever that is can help us fend off God, it would certainly be worth investigating. Turns out the coordinates led us to another one of God's fortifications. Boy, am I getting tired of these. The worst part, it was on top of a dang mountain, and we currently did not have a good way of getting Tim up there without the risk of him tumbling down. Now, this fort consisted of a metal structure and an adobe structure. Naturally, we decided to check out the adobe one first, seeing how it was more brittle, which turned out to not be the greatest idea we ever had.
Oh wait, we can sit up here.
Wait, what? Yeah, maybe I'm not gonna do that. In hindsight. Yep, this place was dangerous from top to bottom. Not the adobe structure itself, there was actually nothing in there, but several turrets were pointing at everything and anything around here, meaning approaching the metal building was a bit of a challenge. While Birdie took off to pick Brandon up from the base, I found a bit of a dead angle. Parking my Argentavis a safe distance away from the turrets, I managed to use my climbing hooks once more to get close. I was so stealthy not even the birds noticed me, but in order to do anything about it, I needed explosives, which Brandon had on his body. The only way to get my hands on it without getting shot was by blowing up the adobe structure to then gain line of sight to his body for a swift grappling hook retrieval. This is the first time I remembered your guys' comments about how you can grapple bodies, and it made me feel like $1,000,000, which Birdie definitely could not say about himself upon returning.
So just go fast. You're going to the left behind the building.
Oh, there is a behind the building over here. Go.
Yep.
No!
Honestly, of all the ways that Brandon managed to get Birdie's flyers killed, this might have been the most creative one. I mean, dang, I didn't even get to introduce his new orgy before it got killed. Either way, I finally managed to do some damage to the structure, which obviously made God's orgies very angry, but once these were taken care of, I got to realize that I made a huge mistake. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there are turrets on the inside as well. Yep, I just opened up line of sight for even more turrets to shoot us out of the sky. But you know what they say, Konsequenz heißt auch Holzwege zu Ende zu gehen, which roughly translates to, well, I started doing the wrong thing, might as well finish it. The idea was to break the foundations housing the turrets so that I could destroy both of them in one fell swoop, but because I had absolutely no concept or mathematical capability of finding out how many I need to make that happen, all I achieved was tearing down even more walls to open up even more line of sight. All of this could have been avoided if only I was not so impatient and waited for my tribe to come back, but hey, at least the sandstorm gave me a lot of time to think about my mistakes, of which I was bound to make even more. Yeah, this raid was going all sorts of wrong with all of us dying like flies.
Just bring in Typhoon home.
I'm gonna go get killed again.
Have fun.
Thanks. Eventually, all of us died off enough for the entire squad to actually be alive and present at the same time, at which point Brandon had dropped the absolute 5,000 IQ idea that we could blow up the structure from up top, because the roof blocked LOS to the turrets, which was a great idea I wanted to execute on until I got shot yet again. But hey, at least Birdie was there to pick me up, and he brought me back to the raid just in time for Brandon to hit the red button. Honestly, I'd be pretty upset about him doing that without us, but after all that happened during this raid, I kind of lost the privilege of calling myself the main character. But for all we suffered, at least we finally got to reap the rewards.
The turrets are down, maybe?
No. Really?
No, they're definitely not.
Nope.
They're not down.
Oh my god!
The Titan Slayer?
Okay, now I know what the Titan Slayer is. We need to get out of here alive. What is in here?
Look at this.
What the? Now this definitely felt like something God did not want us to get our hands on. The Titan Slayer being a Quetzal just opened up a lot of possibilities for us. Once safely retrieved, we properly examined its stats, and it's a level 405 Quetzal, 15,000 HP and almost 1,700 weight, ready to hold whatever firepower we decide to build upon it. As long as we don't mind it being incredibly glitchy, because such is simply the way of things when it comes to moving platforms in ARK. But obtaining this definitely came at a price, because shortly after freeing the Titan Slayer, God decided to make his move. A massive storm swamped the ARK, limiting visibility and making travel impossible. Whilst we were taking shelter within the confines of our base, something was brewing. An army of creatures was gathering, flashing teeth and sharp claws at the ready. God's minions were ready to tear us asunder until they got within turret range. Yeah, now we knew something was going on. Well, that and the server message letting us know that we're currently getting raided. And gamers, words cannot describe how much relief Brandon and I felt at that very moment. For the last 69 days, nice, the two of us agonized over making Stromgarde a secure place to live. But until today, we had no idea how our defenses would hold up to an actual raid, which so far were holding up great. Obviously, this was but the first wave. More dinosaurs would come to test our walls, but don't worry, because Brandon and I have some secret weapons up our sleeves. A hidden turret battery opposite of the southern wall was actually meant to pincer any invading force, but ended up completely obliterating it, which was not entirely thanks to our brilliant design.
You guys hear that?
They're fighting the golem.
They're fighting the wild golem!
Fighting the wild golem.
Even the ARK itself seemed intent on helping us defeat God. It's like the native species realized that these aberrant creatures do not belong here, but obviously we'd better chip in to help them evict this pest. Things did get more complicated for us when God decided to bring rock golems off his own. We had to get rid of them before they soaked our entire stockpile of ammunition, but at present, the only one who was able to deal with them was Echo, together with his Thyla Regulus.
I'm going in, but there's so many animals, I don't think I can.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll aggro the back line.
Birdie, you and I, we take care of the back line. Yep. Try not to get too many hits.
Yeah, I'm going cannon on the rock golem.
We were a well-oiled machine. Whilst Birdie and I kited the small fry around, Regulus was chomping into the golems and Brandon adding to it via means of rocket fire. If we could hold off the Karnos long enough for the rock golems to be defeated, our turrets would be able to take care of them. But unfortunately, they were a little smarter than expected and began boxing Regulus into a corner. We had to fly in and help Echo before he lost his Thyla. Should Regulus perish, our chances of winning this encounter would decrease, and that drastically. But even when we defeated this threat, another one was already waiting at the other gate. These waves were getting more and more dangerous. A whole pack of Arthros was tearing into our defenses, while the Wild Rock Golem was fending off a pack of Karnos and Aloes. When the gates broke, it was time to unleash another one of our secret weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Azure Gas. Together with Birdie and Mobile, we would have to stop this army from entering our compound. Should these Arthros make it inside, irreparable damage could be done to our base. But powerful as Mobile is, this was too much to handle even for her. Azure Gas was looking beat up as well, but I could not back off now. Even when facing creatures over level 400, Azure Gas was made for combat, and combat is what he would pursue. Things only got worse from here, because just as we defeated this wave, we noticed that the northern gate had been breached as well. The golems had depleted our turrets, leaving the way open for God's other creatures to break into our base. They were at the second wall now. I had no choice but to retreat to my house to gather more weapons and ammunition to deal with the Arthros. You know what wasn't dealing with anything? The wall of plant turrets I had put up, because I just now realized I planted the wrong dang plant. With the gates broken, this side of our base had very little in the way of stopping creatures now, though to be fair, what would need to be stopped was absolutely massive. A level 300 corrupted Giga had posted up in front of our broken gate. Now this definitely did not belong on this arc, and guess what? God was about to make it our problem. Oh my god. It's so big! What is that damage?
What is that damage?
I can't hit it. I can't hit it. It's hitting the wall, but I can't hit it.
Oh god! Run!
He just walks in here?
Oh my god, it's massive!
It's just breaking everything.
What the hell? It's destroying everything!
And it takes no damage.
Towers go! Towers go! Okay, Brandon, it's time. It's time.
It's time.
Tom, let's go.
Oh, my house! Oh, it's right
It is
after
Tim.
me. No! Okay, let's get out of here.
It's time.
Yes!
Oh my god, we got it!
Behind us, guys. Yeah.
I just
No
got
time
39
to dilly
levels
dally. No time to dilly dally.
Oh god, we got more? How was that not the boss wave?
Is that a Titanosaur?
What?
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Oh, what?
Okay, that's not fair.
Cliff, we need to give them theirs.
Shit, okay. Where's Birdie?
Are we abandoning ship?
Everyone to my house. And Brandon, you hold the line.
What are we here for?
I hate that it's coming to this. I did not want to show you guys this, but come to my secret laboratory, quick.
Quick, man. Time is of the essence.
Come down. Brandon cannot hold them all forever. Okay, check inside here. There's 2 rock golems, 1 for each.
I'll take Tam.
Okay, let's go. Go. Get out there.
Go.
Alright, this begs for an explanation. Some of you might have noticed that the raid on the mountain base took place on day 47, but God's retaliation only presented itself on day 69. Nice. What happened in these missing 22 days? Brandon and I were furiously working on our base's defenses, including a secret project I dubbed Operation Stonewall. Because when everybody else went offline, the 2 of us went out to not only replace Tim, but succeed him. We spent days searching, trapping, and taming these fellas because we were expecting this raid. We didn't know when, but we knew it was happening. And for that, we recruited Tom, Tam, and Cronus, ruler of Titans. Not only that, but we also spent that time farming resources, breeding new creatures, and finding more powerful blueprints to be able to defend ourselves. All for this day. Echo, Birdie, and I rushed out to help Brandon and Cronus. Next to the Titanosaur, we also had to deal with a small army of Aloes. Whilst I was holding the door, the 3 of them together with our turret towers were chipping away at the massive beast. And guess what? We came out victorious! I mean, sure, our base took some amount of damage during the raid, but everything that was destroyed was of low importance. All of our most important infrastructure was in the heart of our base, with every building around it designed to go down first during a raid so that we can remain operational even during the rebuilding. We had done so well in this raid that even God himself congratulated us on our victory. We have come a long way from our early days on the island, and honestly, I am incredibly proud of my tribe for not only surviving, but thriving in this challenge. And trust me when I say that, we got even more surprises up our sleeves. Now, if I told you that we turned a Quetzal into an airship, chances are you're gonna ask, why? What is there that we could possibly use it for other than getting it shot down by a bunch of turrets? Well, you see, there is a creature that could be hugely beneficial to our goal of destroying said turret fortifications, and this Quetzal can help us get it. Ladies and gentlemen, of course I'm talking about the Titanosaur. This massive beast could be the missing link to our ability to take on God's massive compounds. I mean, the obelisks are already liberated, but we were still getting harassed on a weekly basis, and I started to get a hunch on where that harassment came from. But before we could even think about raiding that base, we needed to turn our ideas into reality, and to make that happen, we needed supplies. After spending all we had on reinforcing our base for the raid on the last episode, we were all out of resources, so if we wanted to build anything worthwhile on the Quetzal, we needed to repurpose some existing structures. We literally could not afford to just slap a bunch of turrets on that Quetzal, so we decided to try out something of a free turret in the form of our rock golems. I mean, these guys can toss boulders at the cost of no ammunition, so who's to say that's a bad idea? Well, I think you can already imagine how that went.
So glitchy. This is so glitchy. Stop shaking. We're not gonna go to McDonald's if you guys keep acting like this.
Sorry. Stop, Cronus, stop,
Sorry,
Cronus.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh!
Oh my lord!
Why did I just get knocked off?
It
Oh!
pooped.
Oh my... Stop moving!
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, this was every bit as glitchy as it looks. Either way, it was time for a test run. Far from the maiden voyage, we just wanted to see what we could do with this bird before committing to a full build. And guess what? We found the perfect target in another mountain base, not unlike the one we raided to get the Quetzal in the first place. And dumb as it looks, it actually worked. Yeah, so because the turret batteries are made of stone, we could destroy them with our rock golems, tossing boulders from a safe distance on the back of the Titan Slayer. Now, we did eventually decide to make landfall on the back of our golems to take on the next fortification, during which Birdie somehow managed to fall off the Quetzal, which made it great timing to start having to fight literal dragons. Needless to say that the constant attacks kind of put us on edge, but one of us was a bit more tense than the rest.
You killed a wild level 5 Phoenix!
That was a wild one!
Brandon, what the hell?
Oh, it was wild.
There's not even a body left!
If we're in enemy territory, I see something dangerous flying at me. What do you want me to do?
You use your eyeglass to see if it's an enemy or not.
It was right in front of me.
You literally sound like a routine traffic stop right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, losing a Phoenix really sucked. Even if it was only level 5, it is so rare a creature that neither Echo nor me have ever actually seen one with our own eyes, even in ASE, so needless to say that we were a little upset about this. But not as upset as realizing that rock golems take an absolute truckload of fall damage, leaving them with not enough HP to soak the last turrets. There were still some other fortifications we could take care of without needing to soak any turrets, but rest assured knowing that God eventually wisened up to our shenanigans and began sending more minions after us. Not gonna lie, even though the manual turret was a lot less effective than the automatic ones, there's no denying that shooting dragons out of the sky feels way cooler when you are the one pulling the trigger. Fun as it was, obviously we didn't want to risk losing the Titan Slayer before actually taming a Titan with it, so we decided to retreat back to Stromgarde for now. But the concept definitely worked. We spent the night building out our platform with the latest state-of-the-art machinery and an impeccable design that should make it near invincible, including our patented belly cannon. Okay, listen, I'm not saying that this is more or less effective than a rear cannon. All I'm saying is that it's way cooler than a rear cannon. Either way, the cannon would be necessary to knock out the Titan, because let's just say that tranq darts are not going to cut it. With everything set up and ready, all we had to do was knock out the Titan, right? Oh dear survivors, if only it was that simple.
What is that?
Wait, what the hell?
What is that?
Okay, that's really bad for us.
GG's, boys.
Dude, they have saddles. They take like negative damage. I'm already running out of ammo. They're not even bloody.
Evasive maneuvers.
When God comes down to smite you personally, you know you've done something to piss him off. Our only way to keep the Titan Slayer alive was by retreating back to Stromgarde and employing the help of our turret towers. It was very obvious that God wanted to make sure we do not get our hands on the Titanosaur, so much so that the attack continued even when we arrived at base. Pitting his literal airships against our Quetzal was not going to end up in our favor, but that's okay because now he was on our turf. He might have caught us off guard in the air, but we were armed to the teeth at our base. So after some minor renovations of our buildings via means of rocket fire, we managed to scare him off, confirming one thing: God was not immortal, and his power was not limitless. I mean, think about it, if he truly could just will into existence whatever he wanted, why wouldn't he have sent more Titans and more Gigas after us during the last raid? Why stop at a dozen flyers when he could have had hundreds? What this told me was that our raids against his fortifications hurt, and that a lot, because even though he kept harassing us, the scope of the attacks got smaller and smaller. But now, we needed one thing more than anything else, airborne superiority. We needed some kind of flying creatures to keep our airship safe, and if you played this map before, you know there really is but one choice: Wyvern. So after taking some of our empty turrets off the walls and placing them on our Quetzal, we made way towards the Wyvern scar in order to secure some eggs. But that, my friends, was easier said than done.
Is that are those turrets right there?
Up.
It is,
Oh my god, we're getting shot. We're getting shot.
There's just turrets here? Like, okay, dude.
Of course there are.
Oh, let me guess. They're probably advanced turrets again.
Well, would you look at that?
Would
Heavy
you
auto
look at that? Heavy auto turrets.
At this point, all of us had perished often enough to these things to be completely out of patience. Thankfully, the turret battery covered only a small portion of the Wyvern Scar, allowing access to the vast majority of the region, meaning our plan was not too affected by that. Now, if you've never played Scorched before, the way to get a Wyvern for yourself is to find their nests and steal their eggs. These are not your average knockout tames, and even though taking their offspring seems simple enough, there's a funny little stipulation by which every dragon in the vicinity will aggro onto you the moment you touch the egg. So naturally, we wanted to make sure that whatever egg we take is worth the trouble of having to fight these wyvern.
So far, I've heard Weavern, Wyvern, and Wyvern, so I'm just waiting for all the other vowels, like Wavern and Woovern.
There's also Wolvern.
And Wolvern?
Yeah, Wolvern is one.
However you like to pronounce it, we needed some of our own. We were desperate enough, in fact, that we decided to just begin collecting any eggs we see to allow for new ones to spawn, because none of them were really that great up until this point. Now, the turrets on our Quetzal did work, albeit at a bit more of a delay than we anticipated, causing Birdie to die and Echo to get knocked out. But now that we knew what to expect, we had a good feeling about the next set of eggs. Basically, as long as we keep the Titan Slayer at an altitude lower than the Wyvern, the turrets should be able to take care of them very swiftly. Them eating dirt in the face of this technology is also why we didn't bother getting any eggs before, because with all those turret batteries on the map and the Wyvern not being able to wear saddles for additional protection, we figured they'd get shot out of the sky in no time flat anyway. Though little did we know that some of these things can be a lot tougher than we expected.
Oh, this is like right on the bed.
It was a 155.
Oh, we can find the egg then. Egg. Fly high, fly high, fly high.
Lightning coming. I can't. If I do, I would have died if I sat there.
Come on, Toad's got this, Toad's got this. Another 200. That is suspicious. Okay, that is suspicious.
Now, the reason I found this suspicious is because I wasn't sure if that was a naturally spawning wyvern or one of God's minions. We had gotten used to fighting his incredibly high-level creatures, but it seemed like he was still licking his wounds because he did not stop us from finding the egg corresponding to that level 200 lightning wyvern. Considering ourselves lucky, we decided to take our hole and secure it. Though once we were back at base, we had to decide who gets which egg.
That thing is huge. I forgot.
Okay, I think we know who this one belongs to.
Yep, Echo, name your traps.
At this point, you probably noticed that the gang and I was somewhat color-coding our belongings. We figured that the most fair way to decide who gets which dragon was to distribute them based on the color as well. In an ironic twist, Birdie ended up with the highest level one because it looked reasonably close to pink, even though that lazy son of a gun was taking a nap at this very moment. Now, if you thought that Echo got the short end of the stick by being assigned a poison wyvern, think again, because having the dragon is not all that matters, it also comes down to actually being able to imprint it.
Oh my god, how do you both get cuddles and I get wyvern milk as my first one?
Just wants to cuddle.
I hate it here. Are you absolutely kidding me?
You little cutie pie.
This is not fair.
Yep, while the two of them got to raise their dragons on the back of cuddles alone, mine immediately wanted wyvern milk. Listen here, gamers, if you thought getting these eggs was tedious, you're going to hate the method by which we acquire the milk. Thankfully, I was not going to have to do that alone because Echo's and Brandon's dragons eventually also requested that little treat. Now, allow me to enlighten you on the process of milking wyvern, because you need to locate, aggro, and trap a female specimen to then knock it out in order to take it out of its inventory, which for most other creatures would not be a huge deal, except that wyvern are incredibly big and incredibly dangerous. The trap we needed to construct would have to be pretty big to even fit them, and because we were so low on resources, we had to build it out of leftover structures we mostly found in drops. We wouldn't know if this thing was going to work until we tried it, so Brandon went out to bring our first test subject.
Oh, it's coming.
Oh wow. That's a poison one.
Get it into the trap.
I'm closing the gate behind you. Ooh,
Okay,
fly
Now
out.
fly
It's in.
over here.
I'm out.
The other side.
Get out. Okay, it's in. No, don't kill it.
Why?
Just in case it didn't work, but clearly this is working.
Despite his immediate reaction, I need to remind you guys that we want to knock this thing out, not kill it. Thankfully, it was a very low level, so it didn't take a lot to make that happen, and with the milk we acquired, Echo could finish raising his wyvern Fafnir. Begging the question, what are we going to do with a knocked out dragon? Put it down.
Catch and release.
We don't believe that here.
Well, it's released off life. Standard catch and release, of course. But in all seriousness, I don't think you can milk the same wyvern twice, so the only sensible thing is to put it down so that another one can spawn. Wyvern milk is also known to spoil extremely quickly whilst not fitting in refrigerators because, well, wildcard hates us. Naturally, if we wanted to raise 4 wyvern, we needed more milk, so Brandon went back into the trench to look for another specimen. Besides a couple of minor hiccups, we had actually gotten pretty good at this, at least as long as there were no distractions.
99. Yo, Cliff. He's above it. He's above.
Whoa!
Let's go.
Fafnir.
I'm on him. The first one to ride a dragon.
Brandon?
It's up.
Brandon, you
It's
didn't
up.
put
Put
it
it out.
down! I said put it down, Brandon!
Oh, I thought you meant put down my dragon so I can imprint it.
No, I said put it down! A minor miscommunication that could have literally wiped out his wyvern in its infancy. Speaking of things that could wipe us out, all that dragon killing eventually attracted the attention of an alpha wyvern. Now, the good news is that alpha wyvern do drop milk when defeated. The bad news is that actually defeating it is rather difficult. They are bigger, faster, and stronger than a regular wyvern, so even attempting to kite it into a trap could cost your and your flyer's neck. Now, Echo and Brandon were determined to make use of this opportunity, but me? Yeah, not so much.
Breaking everything. I'm dead.
Cliff, what are you doing over here? Doing nothing.
Well, I'm not gonna shoot, I'm just gonna aggro it.
He's in.
Oh, he's in.
Close the gate. Close the gate.
I'm not gonna get anywhere near that. Truthfully, there really was nothing I could do to help them. If I aggro it from downtown Arath Prime, it's just going to fly to me and away from the trap, at which point all of us were going to die. Speaking of which, Emeralds survived with less than 1,000 HP. With a huge stockpile of milk acquired from that foe, we now had more than enough to return to base and finish imprinting all of our wyvern. We figured out that we could store the milk inside our industrial preserving bin to increase its timer at least a little bit so that we could use it for Birdie's dragon as well once he wakes up, because Lord knows that I had no desire to go back to the Scar to repeat this process. I was still a little salty over the fact that both Echo and Brandon already had fully grown wyvern thanks to imprint RNG, while I had to stare down the mouth of a creature that, and I'm not kidding, exclusively wanted wyvern milk to imprint. Now, I am nothing if not petty. Their constant gloating about how awesome it was to fly around certainly frustrated me, so I figured it was only fair to play a bit of a prank. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to show you the oldest prank in ARK history, telling a new player that there's a bug that allows your lightning wyvern to shoot lightning indefinitely. Hit the button, like whatever your button is bound to do lightning, and then immediately dismount.
I remember this.
You are.
Classic.
It works every time.
Is that like the ARK version of Alt F4?
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically. A trick as old as time. Now, technically speaking, Birdie did play Scorched in ASE before, but his brain saves memories like a sieve saves water. So basically, he might as well be a new player, which means that we had yet another opportunity to try this prank once he woke up. Just hit right click and then dismount.
Yeah, quickly. It has to be really fast.
You're right, that is funny.
I swear this prank never gets old. I hugely encourage you to try it out on your own friends and let me know in the comments if they fell for it. But enough distractions. As soon as the sun was up, we went out on the Titan Slayer anew to finally get ourselves a Titanosaur. And with our wyvern protecting the payload, we were confident that this time we would succeed. As expected, an entire flock of Quetzals began swarming us shortly after leaving the base, but this time we were prepared. We stuffed whatever ammunition we had into the turrets on our back, whilst Brandon and Echo were laying into these things with reckless abandon. There were only so many flyers that God could send after us before all of his resources were depleted, meaning it was time for the main event. Our 2 dragon riders were leading the giant beast towards the dunes, giving us more room to maneuver without constantly aggroing other creatures around. Now it was for Birdie and I to make some magic happen.
Fire.
Whoa!
That was perfect. That
Right
was a
in the
good one.
noggin.
How many times do we have to do that?
I have no idea. We're loaded.
I have bad news. The Titanosaur is faster than we are.
Oh no, it's really bad. Turns out that taming this thing was a little more complicated than expected. Not only did Birdie and I need to coordinate perfectly to time our shots, because only headshots count towards knocking it out, sometimes it just straight up decides to not show its head at all, much to the dismay of our entire tribe. Needless to say that this required an amount of patience that we couldn't really invest in, because every missed shot meant one less cannonball, and let's not forget that these projectiles are incredibly expensive to craft. Obviously, all of us wanted to get this done ASAP as to not give God another chance to mess up our tame, but that impatience would be our undoing.
Oh, it's a girl Titanosaur. I can tell because I'm right on. Oops.
Why?
Wrong button. Wrong button.
Oh my god. Cliff, do we RTP?
No, we have to finish this. We invested too much. Losing half of our flock of wyvern, most of our bullets, and the majority of our cannonballs meant that a second attempt was not in the cards. We had to succeed before God could recuperate his losses, so Birdie and I continued circling the massive beast to finish the job. And gamers, we succeeded. Once it was knocked out, it was only a few bites of kibble away from becoming the latest permanent addition to Story Guy Incorporated thanks to a mod that turns us from a temporary tame to a regular one. And with its help, we would finally be able to turn from the hunted to the hunter. There are few better ways of steamrolling your opposition than by rocking up on a Titanosaur. Arguably the greatest siege tame in ARK, this creature can not only soak damage aplenty, but also dish it out. The only problem? Your creatures are only as powerful as your tribe is smart, and if you have a group of idiots like us, victory is not always guaranteed. But that mattered not, for the boys and I were determined to get our revenge. For all the buildings destroyed, for all the tames perished, and all the avoidable deaths that we had to suffer at the hands of the server admin. It was time to take the fight to God himself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our crusade. Now, as much as I would have loved to start our day coming and knocking at God's bases, we needed to prepare. The compounds we were planning to raid are so massive and so well defended that so far we only got a glimpse at them from afar, meaning that we had to make sure that we were prepared for every possible outcome. Though an outcome that we didn't consider was Brandon's home getting invaded.
What are you illegally breeding jerboas?
Why are all these jerboas in here? What?
How the hell?
Like, what is this?
Excuse me?
Damn, why were all the jerboas in the speakeasy? What were they doing?
What is happening?
Cliff, get out of the way.
Oh, buddy.
Just broke the house.
Yeah. Absolute moron.
I wasn't hiding
You
anything
didn't even
down there.
get them. You didn't even kill
You
them.
didn't even kill them!
They're already dead, so like...
For a little bit of context, in the last 30 days and change, we began seeing very strange occurrences on the ARK. Not only were otherwise neutral creatures fighting each other out in the wild, but we also spotted some dinos that do not belong here. On top of that, some of the creatures that do belong here suddenly began looking sickly, like these jerboas. Come to think of it, a lot of that stuff started after we released the aberrant frogs a few episodes ago, and then it got worse when we raided Blue Op and saw the light bugs escape, but I'm sure that's unrelated. Point being, the ARK itself was getting more and more unstable as the days passed, and we began having more and more trouble getting the farm done that we needed. And if those were the only problems we had, it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but unfortunately for us, God had no intention of giving us a break. Wait, what?
It's got monkeys on the back.
You've got to be absolutely kidding me. The monkeys are in!
Emerald, run!
Oh, Jesus, these are strong. These are really strong.
Do you guys got Regulus on them?
He's somewhere, all right?
Level 600.
Jesus, why are they so high level?
600?
Yup. Now, I haven't been showing you guys every single time an attack like this occurred, but rest assured knowing that we were getting very tired of them. But as I was already alluding to, it is only one of many problems we have to face, because as much as God was controlling creatures to harass us, there were also some he didn't have control of as well. The entire ARK was turning into a war zone, and our tribe wanted absolutely none of it. So after farming the prerequisite amount of metal, we decided to get to work building on our new Titanosaur. Just like with the Quetzal before, we wanted to know what this thing could do before committing to a full build, so we took it for a bit of a test drive to see that even at a very moderate wild level 15, it really slapped. So much so that it could even deal with the damage reduction of rock golems. With a creature as powerful as this, victory felt almost certain, but there's one problem I stumbled upon when trying to begin building on it. It's really high up here. Whoa, hold up. Whoa, okay. Okay, could you pick me up?
Okay.
I would appreciate that. Yeah, as it turns out, getting off this thing was a little more complicated than anticipated, where initially I needed Birdie and his Argentavis to help me get down. Afterwards, I decided to employ one of the glide suits we stole from one of God's compounds. And while Birds and I were busy with the builds, Brandon was in the process of mass-producing more ammunition for the upcoming raids. One big problem was finding the balance between protection and convenience. Of course, I wanted the cockpit to be made out of metal, but in order to not get boiled alive inside, I needed to compensate with an army of air conditioners. This wouldn't happen if we made it out of Adobe, but Adobe is also a lot less resilient than metal, so this is going to have to do. The only thing left after finishing the build was going out to fight a skeletal Alpha T-Rex for some additional levels, after which it was time to walk this thing all the way to God's base. Because of how well fortified it was, I called for everyone to take cover inside the cockpit as we approached, and that ended up being a very good decision because even down here, the turrets had direct line of sight to our Titan and by proxy, to us. us. Honestly, that ended up really working in our favor, because between our Titanosaur as well as our small army of rock golems, we could be soaking turrets all day long. Not that this was our intention, because the idea is to take down the compounds before that happens, making it very inconvenient to find out that another building was erected next to the base proper. We didn't even have the time to formulate a strategy, because said building opened its gates, releasing aberrant creatures to tear us apart. That pack of raptors literally looked like land piranhas from all the way up here, but naturally, neither those nor the aberrant Spinos were much of a challenge for our Titanosaur. Though I have to be honest, when an alpha dragon charged towards us, I did freak out a little bit.
I don't feel a lot of structural damage as an alpha dragon, what the hell?
Just a little bit. It actually ended up being quite the thorn in our butt, because it flew just low enough to be out of range of our turrets, so the only thing we could do was send our rock golems after it. And while we did defeat it eventually, our Titanosaur took a lot of damage from that. Truth be told, I was a little afraid of approaching the star base. The amount of turrets was unlike anything we have ever faced before, and the last thing I wanted was to throw our brand new Titanosaur into the grinder. But ladies and gentlemen, little did I know that naming our Titan Star Killer was more appropriate than I thought.
This is gonna hurt.
Oh my god, it's nothing. It's 11.
Yeah, but 11 times something.
Yep, that's me. Can I do anything to metal? Hold up.
Yeah, let's see.
I don't appear to be doing nothing.
Yes!
Oh,
You're
wait,
doing-
what?
Oh my god, yeah!
Wait, who did
Oh!
this? Was that me?
Oh my god!
Am I doing this?
You are.
Yeah, turns out this thing is even more powerful than I could have ever imagined. The one weakness our rock golems had was that they could not damage metal, but our Star Killer was doing its name justice, absolutely annihilating every structure in its wake. But this is when we started to notice more than just bullets coming towards us. From within the central tower, somebody was firing actual rockets towards the cockpit. It was now a race against time. I began wandering around the structure to destroy the turrets before the rockets blew apart my cover. All the power in the world does nothing for us if none of us are alive to wield it. But in due time, the tower was destroyed. Though whoever was in it was still kicking and, you guessed it, running for their life. Which is when we finally realized that our enemy was God himself.
Oh, I see him.
Eat him, eat him.
He jumped off.
He's
He
running
jumped
away.
off.
He's off the cliff. He's off the cliff. Run, get him.
He ran, coward.
I cannot believe God ran away from us. Birdie,
Where is he?
get Typhoon. Hunt him down.
He's flying away.
Yeah, screw it. I'm following.
Are you getting him?
I'm on it.
This is the first time in 86 days that we were in a winning position. Using the glide suits, Echo and I chased him down with reckless abandon. But in an ironic twist of fate, it was neither of us that defeated him, but his own grenade launcher. You know what that means, right? We now get to loot his body, and gamers, his gear is insane. Unfortunately, most of it had broken in the raid, but looking at the stats, I could finally understand why we had such a hard time taking him out. But that was not our only reward, because within the ruins of the starbase, we found more familiar faces from the Island series, including our faithful UT Sated. I don't know what they did to our poor boy for him to be this beat up, but you know what? Even though we literally have higher level UTs at our base, I had already decided that Sated will be the one leading the charge against the Manticore. This, my friends, was our very first decisive victory. 3-0, no injuries. And you know what? It felt incredible. But there was no time to lose, because we knew of one final base that needed our attention. If we can destroy this compound today, we would be left with about 13 days to prepare for the Manticore fight, which is not exactly a lot. Either way, our scouting revealed that this will be the biggest challenge yet. Between the myriad of turrets and high-level dinos protecting the compound, we knew that we had our work cut out for ourselves. But there was something else going on. Something about this compound caused otherwise passive creatures to attack us on sight, and even worse than that, some of them would wither and die. Even more problematic though was the fact that death had not stopped all of them, and God somehow managed to take control of a skeletal Alpha T-Rex that was well over level 400. One thing was for certain, we were not going to take this lightly, even with our Titanosaur, especially when God found our scouting party and decided to send some flyers towards us.
Did I miss the memo where we said we're bringing explosives?
I always bring explosives.
Yeah, no wonder God always knew when we were attacking. Our suspicion of some kind of chemical warfare being employed here only gained validity when we noticed that some of the flyers attacking us were bats. And I mean, do I need to remind you of how deadly mega rabies is? To avoid actually contracting it, the gang and I decided to head back to base in order to prepare the raid, where everything was perfectly normal, until Birdie died. Like, for seemingly no reason. I know he's usually the first to die when we do, well, right about anything, but dying before we even started the raid? That was fast, even for him. Not sure what that was about, but either way, we had a lot of distance to cover cover to get the Starkiller to the last base. Now, I was hoping to be able to scale the wall in order to take the first tower on immediately, but God was really cooking with this base design because I was not able to scale it even on the back of Starkiller. For now, I had no choice but to tank those turrets whilst attempting to tear down the wall, with the rest of my tribe staying back to watch for potential threats. Though so far, all of these were right in front of me, because even after tearing a hole into the wall, the stupid Rexes made sure I did not pass. But little did I know that us getting stuck here was by design.
What?
Yo, guys, this shit,
Oh,
we gotta get
what? God killed Cliff.
And this, my friends, was disaster. After spawning back on the Quetzal, I hurried on over back to Starkiller in order to close the window through which I just got shot. Unfortunately for me, the damage was already done. God was on our Titanosaur, and the last thing I managed to do was close the door to the cockpit as he threw a grenade. It only took a few seconds for the narcotic gas to kick into effect, knocking me unconscious. There was now absolutely nothing stopping him from running around and slaughtering my tribe. Truthfully, I never felt so helpless before. I'd rather go down fighting alongside my men than lay here unconscious whilst they fend for their lives. Not that they were the only ones on the hit list, because next to us getting spawn camped, we also just lost our airship. As soon as I woke up, I got Starkiller to back away from the turret batteries, but God was still on his back, firing rockets in order to break open the cockpit. When the door finally gave in, I had no choice but to fight back, but as you can probably imagine, this was an uphill battle, because even with my Mastercraft great shotgun, I could barely even scratch him, and eventually, I was taken out. It was only thanks to my tribe laying into him as well that we successfully bought ourselves a few seconds to regroup, at which point I noticed that Red Riot had also perished. Far from the flawless victory I was hoping this to be, we were getting absolutely slaughtered. The literal only way we could stop him was by focusing on firing at his flyers rather than trying to attack him. Starkiller could shake him off eventually, but his mount was the only way he could get back up once he fell. With him having escaped into the ditch below us, we decided to press forward to hit the second tower, but Starkiller was gravely injured and God had no intention of just giving us free reign on his base.
This is really bad. 60,000, 57,000, 56,000.
God, that's a lot of damage. God's back! God's back!
I'm gonna fight these rock golems.
You can't fly too high. You cannot fly too high.
He flew down. He flew down. He flew down.
The turrets on top were the only thing stopping him from going haywire on us, and said turrets would also be the means by which we would defeat him. Now, we already knew that God was not immortal, but what we didn't know was his respawn timer. We had to use this opportunity to flatten the rest of the compound before he came back, but there was still more turrets left. Birdie force-fed our Titanosaur like there was no tomorrow in an attempt to nurse it back to health so that we could finish this raid, but things were looking dicey. We had to move fast, so we blew open a hole into the main building, releasing the remaining creatures and slaughtering them as they came out with the help of Mobile and Azure Gas. We fought tooth and nail to make sure he would have no more minions to control before full sending it towards the last building, tearing down the turrets and walls to finally end this raid. After all the time spent, all the creatures lost, and all the death that we had to endure, it was finally done. The sound of turrets faded into an uneasy silence. Victory was ours, but at a massive cost. And what did we have to show for ourselves? A note. Nothing but death awaits at this place. Bring weapons and prayers. 85-4 by 89. Ladies and gentlemen, this raid was not our last. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the season finale. 100 grueling days of PvP are finally coming to a close as we are preparing to face the Alpha Manticore. With the server admin, aka God, severely weakened, there was no better time than now to get off of this ARK, but that, my friends, was not going to be easy, because even though we managed to deliver a massive blow to God's operation, he still had some tricks up his sleeve, and if there's one thing you can rely on, it's that he's going to make every step of our way a living nightmare. But that's a problem for future us. For now, we were still licking our wounds from the last raid. We invested not only a truckload of resources, but also sacrificed a number of very important tames, both of which needed to be replaced. Fate would have it that there's a new bird that came out in red as well.
What the hell?
It just happened. I just plopped all the eggs down and suddenly there's a red one. So I was like, this is gonna be yours. Sad as I was over having lost Red Riot, Crimson Riot will be a worthy replacement to follow his legacy. And with a new ride under his bum, I sent Echo out to get some silica pearls from Red Ops so we could craft more electronics. Brandon was currently busy harvesting resources to craft more ammunition, and Birdie's job was to fly out on his wyvern to hunt some drops. As for me, I was working on some special preparations, of which I'm going to reveal more later. And everything was going great, until Regulus died. Yeah, so at that point, 91 days in, the map was absolutely swarming with a bunch of creatures that made our life very difficult. A few of said creatures have unfortunately boxed Echo and Regulus, causing the death of arguably our most powerful tame. Thankfully, the rest of our tribe was a little more successful successful, Brandon was well on his way to create hundreds of shotgun shells, and Birdie just came back with his first batch of loot drops.
Alright, Cliff, first haul coming in.
Man, that thing is massive. You forget how big your dragon is when you haven't seen it.
I know, right? Oh, you got some really good stuff, hell yeah.
Hold on, I got stuff in my
Oh my
inventory.
God. Look at these platforms. Brandon, we're gonna have metal for days. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Birdie did a really good job. So much of a good job, in fact, that I decided to reward him and the rest of my tribe with a new set of desert cloth by using blueprints he found, after doing a crafting stat dump, of course. Now, before any more preparation could take place, we needed to find out what we were preparing for. I mean, yeah, we were planning to fight the Alpha Manticore very soon, but according to a note we found on the last raid, there was one more fortification belonging to God. And since these raids usually rewarded us with not only a hefty dose of peace of mind, but also some useful items and or creatures, we figured we should take care of that before starting the boss fight, but then we came across a little bit of a distraction. I mean, while we're here, we might as well pick up that red drop, right?
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully it respawns twice.
Oh my god!
What?
Was it based?
It was extremely based.
What'd you find?
Based on what?
I'm gonna put it on my bird.
Wow! Whoa! Ooh!
Why did we get this like at the start? What the hell? Guys, run away!
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Let's move, guys.
Really can't have Jack in Detroit. Obviously, nothing would stop us from taking our glorious loot and simply leaving. However, the loot crate had respawned. Our collective loot goblin brain cell was immediately activated, and Echo jumped down to throw hands with a worm until its alpha granddaddy appeared as well. Homie got squished like a pancake in an instant. I couldn't save Echo, but I could save Crimson Riot. The good news is that these things were absolutely powerless against us as long as we were staying airborne.
Oh shit! I just pressed E by accident.
Where's this bird?
For having bird in his name, Birdie certainly was not very good at the whole flying thing. I mean, I wouldn't be either if I weighed like 7,000 pounds. Either way, we now had not one but two rescue operations to plan because both of these idiots had all of their best gear on them. Thankfully, we still had our beds down from that one time we completed the nearby cave, so we decided to take a breather and reconvene on top of this building. Our plan was simple. With the help of our rock golems, Tom and Cronus, Brandon and I would grab the attention of the worms to allow Echo and Birdie to fly in and grab their stuff. Now, this was no simple task because even though our rock golems enjoy a heavy damage reduction, the Alpha Deathworm hits so incredibly hard that I actually started to fear for our safety. But even in the midst of danger, Echo was determined to fulfill his destiny.
If it can bleed,
It can die!
go in with my sword. I don't care.
Oh my god, Echo.
Doing big damage. I don't know if you can see.
176.
It's really fast though.
Yeah, you're dealing way more damage than me because I got no stamina right now, dude.
Keep it aggro. Keep it aggro.
Working on it.
It's really bloody.
Working on it. Hey, let's go, Echo!
Let's go.
Kill the little one.
And with that, Echo successfully killed an Alpha Deathworm. Okay, maybe there was a little bit of help from the rest of our tribe, but being technically correct is, as we all know, the best kind of being correct. Now obviously, Echo and Birdie had to fly back to base in order to repair their gear, but Brandon and I continued towards the coordinates detailed on the note, eventually arriving at this monstrosity. An absolutely ginormous compound, turrets on the walls, packs of thylas protecting the entrance, not one but two titanosaurs flanking the base, and in the middle, a corrupted Gigantosaurus. Ladies and gentlemen, we just found the throne of God, even though it's still under construction apparently. Once our tribe was reunited, all of us agreed that this base was unraidable. I mean, think about it. We lost our airship on the last raid, Regulus died literally hours ago, and the only way we could deal with a Titanosaur and Giga last time was by using our turret towers at base. And the worst part, Starkiller was dead. Yep, our secret weapon, our own Titanosaur, had perished out of nowhere just a few short days ago. I was the only one awake at the time, and the strangest thing about it, apparently it died of starvation despite still having plenty of berries in its inventory. With our mod enabled, we had no problem feeding Starkiller because he was now a normal permanent tame, but after the last raid, he simply stopped eating. Something strange was going on for sure. The ecosystem of this ARK was falling apart, and the decay was only accelerated after we destroyed the last base. One thing was for certain, we had to get off of here, and that fast. Our tribe immediately headed for the last artifact cave we needed to start the boss fight, setting up a bit of a cage to keep our flyers safe before heading down into the depth. Naturally, God had closed this one off as well, but by now we knew what kind of game he was playing and came prepared. Now I know that we are fighting for our lives and all the rest of it, but clearing this cave was like the greatest power fantasy I could have ever imagined. Obviously, we were way over leveled and way over prepared, making this an absolute breeze. Mobile and Azure gods were flattening anything that dared to step in front of of them, and we were making blazing fast progress. And for any part that our Rexes didn't fit, we still had plenty of explosives to do the job for them. All that was left was breach as well as clear the room that holds the artifact, after which we could safely retrieve it and return back to base. Obviously, this wasn't the end of the story, because in order to fight the Alpha variant of this ARK's Guardian, we also needed a bunch of tributes. Said tributes included a rainbow variety of wyvern claws on top of the artifact, so that was our natural next step. We have 3 days until day 100, by the way. I spent the night designing a fob for our eventual slaughter of wyvern. The idea was to create a secure box with a bunch of turrets on top, after which all we had to do was lead the wyvern to it. They shouldn't be able to hurt us inside, and since they have no natural armor, just a few turrets should be more than enough to decimate them, for which Brandon provided the heat.
Actually, speaking of ammo, do we have any advanced sniper bullets?
Yes, actually. Why don't you step into the remnants of my armory?
Yeah, Stromguard never completely recovered from the Giga incident, but that's alright because all of this would be left in the past once we ascended anyway. So as soon as the sun was up, our tribe rolled out towards the Wyvern Scar. My job now was to construct a forward operating base whilst everyone else defended me from any incoming danger, and trust me, there was plenty of danger to go around. Little did we know that this was child's play compared to what was about to happen, but for now, I finished the fob before anything really bad occurred. All that was left to do was fill up the turrets and bait some dragons, though before Birdie even had a chance to do that...
Sandworm.
Again?
2 of them.
Oh, sand worms!
Holy! 4 of them!
Why aren't the turrets shooting?
5 of them!
I could only assume that this was God's doing. Running into even just 2 of these things at once was a rare occurrence, but 5? Something was fishy. The worst part about it was that the turrets would be of absolutely no help because, and I can only assume, the targeting hitbox of the Deathworm might be under the ground, and thus cannot be reached by the turrets. But since Wyvern posed no such issue, we did actually take one of them out in the commotion, providing our first poison talon. For reference, we're going to need 20 per species. Birdie only brought us like 1 wyvern at a time, and if we kept up this pace, we wouldn't be done until day 200. Needless to say that we don't have that kind of time. Alright, explain to me what you did. Explain, like, step by step. Explain to me.
You go down there, right? And take the egg.
Right.
Dragon aggro's onto you.
Yeah.
You start flying towards here.
Uh-huh.
Dragon goes away.
Right. Wait, no, that was wrong.
Go ahead. You try then.
Oh, yep, sure does work.
Oh, it works.
Works a little too well, actually. Guys, this is working too well.
Oh my god, there's 3
Why
of
is
them.
there
There's
so
3.
many suddenly?
Throw rocks.
Throw rocks. How did you not find any of these?
They were not down there earlier. Oh my god.
So turns out there were a lot more dragons down there than Birdie led me to believe. Obviously, none of these kills mean anything if I don't collect the talents, so that is exactly what I did whilst under attack from every direction. Another Alpha Deathworm decided to spare us a visit and was all hands on deck now. We had to trust that the turrets could handle the onslaught of dragons whilst we protected our farm, but we only realized how dangerous this operation truly was when another wave of Deathworms took out Tam. Losing a rock golem was a huge blow to our defensive capabilities, but we had no choice. The fight must go on. Otherwise, we could never leave this ARK. Our collection of talents was growing as we decimated more and more wyvern, but our teams were hurt, our resources were running out, and our options were limited.
Hey Cliff, what do?
I don't know, it's destroying the turrets. Those are really expensive, man. Somebody needs to go out and distract it.
Boys, it's been fun.
Wait, what are you trying to do?
Hey, stupid idiot, follow me! Ow.
That did not last long.
Now, thankfully for us, the Alpha Deathworm eventually got bored of harassing us. We used that opportunity to check the bags for the last remaining talents we needed, and as soon as we found them, I mean like the literal nanosecond we were done, all of us mounted up to get the heck out. Which was easier said than done, because even on our way out, there were plenty of dragons around trying to take a bite out of us. Before you ask, yes, I was fully intending on sacrificing the rest of my tribe if it meant I could get these talents back to base safely. But I'm pleased to inform you that this was not necessary. Now, some of you might be thinking, bro, it's day 97. You got absolute jack for gear besides an ascending crossbow, and no army to take to the boss fight. How on earth are you planning to defeat the Alpha Manticore? Ladies and gentlemen, that is what I wanted you to think, because it is also what I wanted God to think. Hidden deep below, following an underwater tunnel right next to the red obelisk, I had built a laboratory. A safe space hidden from God's prying eyes where I could breed and mutate my army in peace. But that is not all. Forged from the best blueprints I could get my hands on, juiced up by the power of crafting skill, I created the ultimate gear kits. The best armor I could craft to equip my tribe. I even went through the effort of putting skins and coloring on them so everyone knew which belonged to whom. From armor to consumables to, yes, even an army, we had everything we needed to end this. So I grabbed the talents and artifacts in anticipation anticipation of our final encounter. Day 99. Our army was out of their cryopods, wide awake and ready to fight. For 99 days, we had been working towards this moment. For 99 days, we endured hardship, we endured loss, we endured the toughest raids we ever experienced, all for this moment. And you know what? After fighting God for so long, this boss fight was going to be easy.
Use your guns, gamers. Try to dodge. Oh, yep, try to dodge that.
Mobile, come here. Yeah, screw it. Go in, Mobile. I believe.
All right, here we go.
Munch, munch,
All right,
munch.
I'm on Mobile.
Dude, it does not even like give us any chance. It's just flying away immediately. Are you using homing missiles?
Yeah, homie missiles.
Based.
There's a death worm. There's a
Oh,
death
death
worm.
worms.
There's death worms?
Oh, we're cleaning up. We're cleaning up easy. Look at that. The T-Rex army has no problem with death worms. Yup, there it is.
Just gonna fly up to the sky. Yeah. The second I get close, it flies up.
Look at all that healing. Let's go. Ants back down.
What is that
I
DPS?
think he might be stuck. I think it might be stuck.
Uh-oh.
My game just hard.
Dude, yeah, me
game.
too.
Oh,
Holy
frame rate.
crap.
No.
What is
Next slide,
happening?
please.
Oh my god.
Next slide, please.
This is the actual boss. This is the actual boss, guys. Go, 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 go.
Ah,
Back down
he's
here,
so
you
low.
coward! Oh, there's rock golems. There's rock golems on Delphi behind you. It's almost one. It's almost dead. It's almost dead.
Circling.
Guys, I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. It's one. It's one. We got it.
Yeah.
Alpha Manticore.
Light work, no reaction.
This was an ascension well deserved. The hardest and only boss fight Scorched Earth had to offer paled in comparison to everything that came before it. In a way, God had almost steeled us for this encounter, and for the first time, our entire tribe got to enjoy an ascension.
Uh-oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
No.
We going?
Your survival ends here!